Good evening, listeners. My name is EveningWhisperTales. Tonight, I'll be telling you some scary horror stories to help you relax and fall asleep. If you enjoy this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Now, let's begin our evening together. Story 1. My daughter wouldn't get back in the car. We were already late. That was the only reason I pulled over. The road cut through farmland that had long ago given up pretending it was still productive. Fields of waist-high weeds, collapsed barns leaning into themselves, fence posts bent like tired teeth. The sun was sinking fast, turning everything orange and gray, shadows stretching so long they crossed the asphalt. My daughter had been quiet in the back seat for 10 minutes. Too quiet. That alone was enough to make me check the mirror. She wasn't asleep. She was sitting forward in her booster seat, hands pressed flat against the window, staring at something in the field to our right. "What are you looking at?" I asked. She didn't answer. "Honey?" She blinked slowly. "Can we stop?" I frowned. "Why?" "There's a man waving." I slowed without thinking. The shoulder crunched under the tires. I followed her gaze. Empty field, tall grass swaying gently, a rusted irrigation rig half collapsed in the distance. No man. "No one's there." She shook her head. "Yes, there is." "Where?" "By the fence." I leaned closer to the windshield. Still nothing. "You're seeing shadows." She frowned. "He stopped when you looked." That sent a chill up my arms. "Okay, seatbelt on, we're going." I pressed the gas. The engine revved. The car didn't move. I tried again. Nothing. The dashboard light stayed on. The radio hummed, but the car sat heavy on the road, like something had settled onto it. "Dad," she whispered. "What?" "He's closer now." I checked the side mirror. The grass near the fence rippled, not wind, something parting it, slow, deliberate. My stomach tightened. I put the car in reverse. The tires spun, didn't roll. "What does he look like?" I asked, forcing calm into my voice. She hesitated. "Tall." "How tall?" "Taller than the fence." I swallowed. "And his face." She leaned closer to the glass. "He keeps changing it." A shadow moved through the weeds. Long, vertical, wrong. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Of course, the air felt thick, quiet. Even the insects had stopped. My daughter whispered, "He wants me to come see something." "No." "He says it's in the ditch." I twisted around in my seat. "Do not open your door." She looked at me and smiled, not scared, reassured. "He says you won't let me, but the car will." The locks clicked, all four, at once. I lunged for the controls. They wouldn't move. Outside, the weeds bent outward. A shape rose above them, not fully visible, just shoulders, a head too narrow. My daughter lifted her hand, waved. I grabbed her wrist through the seat gap. "Don't." She frowned at me. "He doesn't like when you touch me." The car rocked, once, like something had leaned against it. "Hard," I shouted. No one answered. The shape stepped closer. Grass flattened beneath it. Still no footsteps. My daughter whispered, right next to my ear, "He says if you look straight at him." My throat went dry. "You won't remember me." Behind us, something tapped on the trunk. 3 slow knocks, right in the metal. Story 2. My brother wouldn't turn the lights back on. The power had gone out during dinner. Not a storm, no wind, no rain, no thunder. Just the lights blinking once and dying. The fridge going silent. The TV cutting mid-sentence. My brother laughed. "Relax. Rural grid." He grabbed his phone flashlight and headed toward the breaker panel in the laundry room. "I'll flip it." I kept eating. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The house stayed dark except for the glow from my phone. "Hey," I called. "Any luck?" Nothing. I listened. No footsteps. No metal clanks from the panel. Just the hum of insects outside through open windows. Too loud. I stood up. "Quit screwing around." No answer. I walked down the hall. The laundry room light was off. Door open. Breaker panel shut. My brother stood inside, facing the wall. Phone flashlight aimed at the floor. "Did you reset it?" He didn't move. Seriously. I stepped closer. The air was colder in here. Not drafty. Basement cold. "Why are you standing like that?" He swallowed. "I'm waiting." "For what?" "For it to stop moving." My stomach tightened. "What?" "The shadows." I frowned. "Your lights pointed down." "I know." "Then what shadows?" He shifted his wrist slightly. The beam slid across the wall. The shadows didn't. They stayed stretched long and crooked behind the pipes, like silhouettes burned into the paint. He whispered, "They're leaning." I felt cold creep into my hands. "Turn the lights back on." "I can't touch the panel." "Why?" "Because they're using it." A soft click came from the breaker box. Not a switch. Something fingernails make, scraping plastic. He whispered, "There are more of them now." 3. My son wouldn't stop watching the closet. We were supposed to be asleep. The whole house had gone quiet an hour earlier. Dishwasher finished its cycle. Hallway light turned off. Thermostat clicking softly as it settled into night mode. I was half asleep myself when I realized my son was sitting up in bed. Not shifting, not fidgeting, just upright, staring at the closet. Moonlight slipped through the blinds, cutting pale stripes across the room. "What are you doing?" I whispered. He didn't answer. "Buddy?" Nothing. I pushed myself up on one elbow. His eyes didn't blink, didn't flick to me, locked on the sliver of darkness between the sliding closet doors. "Go to sleep," I murmured. He shook his head slowly. "Can't." "Why?" "They're taking turns." My stomach tightened. "Who?" "The hangers." I glanced at the closet. 2 white panels, a narrow gap, shadows behind them. Normal. "What about them?" "They're moving when you breathe." I froze. "I'm not." He whispered, "Yes, you are." I held my breath. The closet stayed still. "See?" I exhaled. One of the hangers inside clicked. Soft plastic tapping metal rod. My throat went dry. "That's normal." "No. They only do it when you stop." I stared at the doors. "Stop what?" "Looking." I forced myself to look away. At the wall, at his nightlight, at the glow of the baby monitor on the dresser. Behind me, plastic scraped, slow, long, like something dragging itself across metal. I turned back. The gap between the closet doors was wider. My son whispered, "That one's learning how the floor works." I slid out of bed. "Get under the covers." He didn't move. "They don't want me to yet." I took 2 careful steps forward. The air near the closet felt colder, damp, like the inside of a refrigerator. "What do they look like?" He thought for a second. "Like coats trying to remember people." The hanger rod creaked. A shadow bent down to the floor. Something long reached out of the dark. My son grabbed my wrist. "Don't let it put shoes on." Story 4. My wife kept calling me from rooms I wasn't in. I was standing in the kitchen when she called my name, normal enough. "Honey?" "Yeah?" I called back. No answer. I waited, then again. "Honey." Same tone, same volume, same place. The kitchen doorway stayed empty. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked into the hall. What? Nothing. The living room was dark except for the glow from the TV sleep screen. The front door was locked, windows closed. I went back to the kitchen, stood in the same spot. "Honey?" she called again, this time from upstairs. I froze. "Where are you?" "In the bedroom." I frowned. The bedroom was downstairs. We hadn't lived in a 2-story place in years. "I'm in the kitchen." She paused. "No, you're not." My pulse picked up. "Yes, I am." She sounded confused. "Then who just walked past me?" I didn't move. "What?" "In the hall." The upstairs hall, which didn't exist. I whispered, "Stay where you are." "I am." The house creaked, settling, or something shifting its weight. "Come here," she called. "Which room?" "The one you're in." My stomach tightened. "I'm not moving." She went quiet. Then, from the doorway behind me, her voice whispered, "Why not?" I didn't turn. Story 5. My friend kept sitting in the wrong chair. It wasn't even his house. That was the part I kept thinking about later. We were at Ryan's place, small townhouse near campus, narrow stairs, hand-me-down furniture, the smell of old carpet mixed with pizza grease and cheap candles. 6 of us were scattered around the living room, half watching a movie while scrolling our phones and arguing about what to order next. There weren't enough seats, so people had dragged chairs in from the kitchen. 1 folding chair, 1 bar stool, the couch already full. Eli arrived late. He stood in the doorway for a second, scanning the room. "There's a seat," he said. I looked. Every chair was taken. So was the arm of the couch. "Where?" He pointed between the TV stand and the bookshelf. "Empty space." "No, there isn't." He frowned. "Yeah, there is." He walked forward anyway, pulled a chair back. The scraping sound was real, wood on hardwood. Everyone paused. Ryan blinked. "Dude, what chair?" Eli glanced down, then slowly lowered himself, like he was sitting. His knees bent, his body dropped, but not all the way. He hovered a few inches above the floor, then settled, like something invisible had caught him. My stomach tightened. "You okay?" He nodded. "Yeah." "You're not in a chair." "Yes, I am." Ryan stood up. "Eli, get up." Eli tried. He didn't move, not stuck, just resistant, like someone had a hand on his shoulder. "Hold on," he muttered, pushing against the air beside him. His arm stopped, mid-motion, like it hit something solid. "I think it's one of those ghost chairs," someone joked. Nobody laughed. Eli's eyes flicked around the room. "It's warm." "What is?" "The back." "There is no back." He leaned slightly, winced. "It's leaning into me." I stood. "Move. I am moving." He wasn't. His legs trembled. The movie kept playing in the background, bright colors flashing silently because someone had paused the sound without realizing it. Ryan whispered, "Eli, what are you sitting on?" Eli swallowed. "I don't know." The floor creaked, not under his feet, under him, like weight settling. The bookshelf beside him ticked, wood adjusting. "I feel breathing," he said. Nobody spoke. I stepped closer. The air around him felt different, warmer, humid, like standing too close to someone else's skin. "Get up," I said again. Eli tried to lift his right leg. It rose an inch, stopped, like it was hooked under something. It wrapped around my calf. I backed up. Ryan whispered, "Call someone." "Who?" Someone else whispered back. Eli's voice shook. "Guys." "What?" "There's another one behind me." I stared at the empty space. "There's nothing there." "I know." He swallowed hard. "I can feel its knees." The folding chair across the room collapsed. No one touched it. Metal snapped inward. Eli flinched. It doesn't like that. Doesn't like what? Being noticed. The lights flickered once, twice. The TV glitched. For a split second, the screen reflected the room instead of the movie. Reflected us. Reflected Eli. Reflected a shape behind him. Too tall, too close, bent over his shoulders. The movie snapped back. Eli gasped, "You saw it too." Nobody answered, because we had, and none of us wanted to say it out loud. He whispered, "It says the seat was empty for a long time." The floor creaked again, deeper, closer, like something adjusting its posture. And Eli's feet lifted, just slightly, off the ground. Story 6, the scar. My daughter wouldn't explain. I didn't notice it right away. That was the scariest part. My daughter was brushing her teeth before bed, standing on the little plastic stool in front of the bathroom sink, pajama sleeves rolled up because she hated when they got wet. I was leaning against the door frame, half watching her, half scrolling my phone. She lifted her arm to rinse. Something pale crossed her forearm. I blinked, looked again. There was a thin line running from just below her elbow to her wrist. Pink, erased, fresh. "Honey," I said slowly, "what happened to your arm?" She froze, didn't turn around, didn't lower her arm, just stared at herself in the mirror. "What?" "That scratch." She looked down. "Oh." My stomach tightened. "Oh, what?" She shrugged. "I always had that." No, she hadn't. I'd bathed her 100 times, put sunscreen on her arms every summer, bandaged scraped knees and paper cuts and mosquito bites. That mark had not been there yesterday. "That's new." She shook her head. "No." I walked closer. "It is." Her reflection frowned at me. Not her, the version of her in the mirror. My daughter's real face stayed still. "When did you get it?" I asked. She took too long to answer. "Outside." "Outside where?" "By the fence." Cold slid into my chest. We didn't let her play near the back fence alone. Ever. "What were you doing there?" She rinsed her toothbrush, spit, wiped her mouth. "I was talking." "To who?" She shrugged again. "The quiet man." My throat went dry. "What quiet man?" She finally turned around. Her eyes were calm, too calm. "He lives where the grass stops moving." I crouched to her level. "Sweetheart, did someone touch you?" She shook her head. "No." "Then how did that happen?" She lifted her arm and traced a line with one finger. "He showed me." "Showed you what?" How wide his smile opens. I stared at the mark. It wasn't a scratch. It was too clean, too straight, like something had been pressed against her skin instead of dragged. "How did he do that?" She hesitated. "With his teeth." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Did it hurt?" She nodded once. "Not at first." "And then?" "It did when he closed them." I grabbed her arm gently and turned it toward the light. The scar wasn't bleeding, wasn't scabbed, but it pulsed, just faintly, like something under her skin was remembering. "Where is he now?" She glanced toward the bathroom window. The blinds were closed, moonlight leaked through the slats. Room waiting for me to finish brushing. I turned and yanked the blinds up. The yard lay empty, grass silver in moonlight, fence standing crooked at the tree line, nothing else. When I looked back, my daughter's arm was clean, smooth, unmarked. I swallowed. "Where did it go?" She blinked. "What go?" The mirror behind her fogged. One long streak dragged downward through the condensation. From the outside, and in the glass, right behind us, a reflection smiled that wasn't either of us. Story 6, The scar. My daughter wouldn't. Explain. I didn't notice it right away. That was the scariest part. My daughter was brushing her teeth before bed, standing on a little plastic stool in front of the bathroom sink. Pajama sleeves rolled up because she hated when they got wet. I was leaning against the doorframe, half watching her, half scrolling my phone. She lifted her arm to rinse. Something pale crossed her forearm. I blinked, looked again. There was a thin line running from just below her elbow to her wrist. Pink, raised, fresh. "Honey," I said slowly, "what happened to your arm?" She froze, didn't turn around, didn't lower her arm, just stared at herself in the mirror. "What?" "That scratch." She looked down. "Oh." My stomach tightened. "Oh, what?" She shrugged. "I always had that." No, she hadn't. I'd bathed her 100 times, put sunscreen on her arms every summer, bandaged scraped knees and paper cuts and mosquito bites. That mark had not been there yesterday. "That's new." She shook her head. "No." I walked closer. "It is." Her reflection frowned at me. Not her, the version of her in the mirror. My daughter's real face stayed still. "When did you get it?" I asked. She took too long to answer. "Outside." "Outside where?" "By the fence." Cold slid into my chest. We didn't let her play near the back fence alone. Ever. "What were you doing there?" She rinsed her toothbrush, spit, wiped her mouth. "I was talking." "To who?" She shrugged again. "The quiet man." My throat went dry. "What quiet man?" She finally turned around. Her eyes were calm, too calm. "He lives where the grass stops moving." I crouched to her level. "Sweetheart, did someone touch you?" She shook her head. "No." "Then how did that happen?" She lifted her arm and traced the line with one finger. "He showed me." "Showed you what?" How wide his smile opens. I stared at the mark. It wasn't a scratch. It was too clean, too straight, like something had been pressed against her skin instead of dragged. "How did he do that?" She hesitated. "With his teeth." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Did it hurt?" She nodded once. "Not at first." And then, "It did when he closed them." I grabbed her arm gently and turned it toward the light. The scar wasn't bleeding, wasn't scabbed, but it pulsed, just faintly, like something under her skin was remembering. "Where is he now?" She glanced toward the bathroom window. The blinds were closed. Moonlight leaked through the slats. Waiting for me to finish brushing. I turned and yanked the blinds up. The yard lay empty, grass silver in moonlight, fence standing crooked at the tree line. Nothing else. When I looked back, my daughter's arm was clean, smooth, unmarked. I swallowed. "Where did it go?" She blinked. "What go?" The mirror behind her fogged. One long streak dragged downward through the condensation. From the outside, and in the glass, right behind us, a reflection smiled that wasn't either of us. Story 7. We found the body where the creek curved. We weren't supposed to be that far in. That was the rule our parents had drilled into us every summer. Don't cross the fallen log. Don't follow the creek once it bends. Don't go past where you can still hear the highway. So naturally, that was exactly where we went. 6 of us, muddy sneakers, backpacks full of snacks, sticks we pretended were swords, pushing deeper into the trees while the afternoon light thinned into something yellow and tired. The creek narrowed the farther we followed it, water whispering over rocks, banks steepening, roots clawing out of the dirt like knuckles. "I dare you to cross it," Tyler said, hopping over a slick stone. "You already crossed." Mia shot back. "That doesn't count. I didn't slip." Jonas slipped. He windmilled, caught himself on a branch, and laughed too loud. Almost died. "Drama," someone muttered. We rounded the bend. The air changed, cooler, still, like the forest had inhaled and decided not to let it out. The creek widened into a slow, dark pool, where water barely moved, ringed with reeds and leaning trees whose reflections made the surface look deeper than it should have been. "Let's go back," Mia said. "No way," Tyler replied. "There's probably crawdads." Jonah crouched and poked the water with the stick. The stick didn't ripple the surface much. That was strange. He pushed harder. The water dented, then smoothed. "Why is it thick?" he asked. "Stop being weird," I said. That's when I saw the shoe, half buried in silt at the edge of the pool. White, canvas, still tied. I stepped closer. The others followed. It was attached to a leg. The water didn't hide much once you knew what to look for. Pale skin under the surface, hair drifting like black weeds, an arm bent at the wrong angle. Someone whispered, "That's fake." Nobody answered. I crouched. The face was turned sideways in the mud, eyes open, mouth slightly parted like they'd tried to breathe underwater. My stomach twisted. Tyler backed up. "Nope." Mia started crying. Jonah gagged. "We gotta tell someone," I whispered. Then the body moved, just a little, not floating, not drifting. The fingers flexed in the mud, slow, careful, like testing whether they still worked. Tyler screamed. We ran. Branches slapped our arms, packs bouncing, sneakers skidding on wet dirt as we tore back through the woods the way we'd come. Except the creek didn't sound the same anymore. It was louder, closer, like it was following. Behind us, something slid through the water, heavy, dragging, and in the rush of panic, I realized the worst part. The body hadn't been there long, because the skin was warm, and something in the pool had only just finished using it. Story 8. The prodigy who didn't cry at the funeral. Everyone expected Noah to break. That's what people kept whispering. Hands folded, voices low, eyes flicking toward him in the front pew, like they were waiting for glass to finally crack. He didn't. He sat perfectly still between two distant relatives he barely knew, feet not touching the floor, black suit hanging awkwardly off his narrow shoulders. His hands rested in his lap, fingers laced so neatly it looked practiced, too practiced. The priest talked about tragedies, about accidents, about brilliance cut short, about parents who loved him. Noah didn't move, didn't blink, didn't sniffle, didn't fidget, just stared at the closed casket. I only noticed because I was seated 3 rows behind, there with my own parents out of obligation more than grief. We lived on the same block, had traded casseroles once or twice, watched Noah win science fairs and piano competitions on the local news. I leaned toward my mom. "Has he done that the whole time?" She nodded. "He hasn't made a sound since they brought him in." That didn't mean much. Some kids shut down, some freeze. But when the service ended and people stood, chairs scraping softly against polished floors, Noah didn't rise with them. The woman beside him touched his shoulder. "Sweetheart." Nothing. She touched him again, harder. He looked up, slow. His eyes were dry, not red, not glossy, just empty. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded, then added quietly, "They didn't put the right people in the box." The woman stiffened. "What?" Noah's gaze slid back to the casket. "They only put the old parts." I felt cold move through my ribs. "What old parts?" The woman whispered. Noah tilted his head. "The loud ones. People began filing past the casket, pausing, crossing themselves, leaving flowers. When Noah stood, it was smooth and careful, like someone who had rehearsed the motion. He walked forward alone, stopped, stared down. I couldn't see inside, but I could see his reflection in the polished wood. It didn't move when he did. Someone murmured his name. He leaned closer to the casket, whispered something into it. The lid knocked once from the inside, just once. Sharp, clean, like knuckles on wood. Noah smiled, barely. They heard me. People froze. The priest stopped mid-step. The knock came again, slower, 3 times. From inside, someone screamed. The funeral director rushed forward, hand shaking. He pressed down on the lid. The knocking stopped. Noah frowned. They don't like being quiet. His relatives pulled him back. The casket didn't move again, but Noah kept watching it, like he was waiting for it to finish something. And when they finally led him away, I swear, I heard something shifting inside, not pounding, not scratching, learning. Story 9. The woman who started seeing someone behind her. Mrs. Calder lived alone. Everyone on our street knew that. Her husband had died years ago. Her kids had moved out of state, and she kept mostly to herself. Short waves from the porch, groceries brought in at the same time every Wednesday, porch light off by 9. So when she started talking to someone in her kitchen window, people noticed. I only saw it by accident. I was taking out the trash late, the night cool and still, when I glanced up at her house across the street and noticed a second silhouette behind the lace curtain, tall, close to her, facing her. She lifted a hand. The shape lifted one too, mirror-like. I frowned. Company at this hour seemed unlikely. The next night it happened again. Same window, same time. This time I stood longer. Mrs. Calder paced. The silhouette didn't. It stayed where it was, right behind her, like a shadow that had lost its owner. I crossed the street, not all the way, just close enough to hear her voices carried through the open kitchen window. They didn't. She spoke. I couldn't hear what she said. The other shape didn't speak at all. It didn't move. She laughed suddenly, sharp, nervous. The shape leaned, not forward, sideways, like joints didn't work right. I stepped back. On the 3rd night, she knocked on my door. Her eyes were ringed with purple, didn't sleep, hair uncombed. "You've been seeing him too," she said. My stomach dropped. Seeing who? She gripped the porch rail. "The man in my house." I stared. "There's no... He doesn't leave reflections," she whispered. Cold slid through me. "What?" "Mirrors, windows, spoons. I check everything." "Then how do you see him?" "In the corners." She swallowed. "He only shows up when I'm not looking straight at him." My mouth went dry. "That doesn't make sense." She leaned closer. "He stands where my back used to be." I hesitated. "Have you called anyone?" She nodded. "They told me I was stressed." Her porch light flicked off behind her. Neither of us had touched the switch. Mrs. Calder flinched. "He's learning how to turn things off." From inside her house, a chair scraped, slow, heavy, dragged across tile. She whispered, "He doesn't like when I talk about him." And in her darkened kitchen window, the silhouette lifted its head toward us, even though the lights were out. Story 10. She got the text before he broke up with her. She was already crying when her phone buzzed. That was the strange part. Not sobbing, just quiet, stunned tears sliding down her cheeks while she stared at the blank TV screen in her apartment, remote loose in her hand. "I only know," Because, she told me later, said it felt like grief arriving before the reason. Her fiancé, Caleb, was supposed to come over after work. They were mid-wedding planning, arguing about guest lists and colors and whether open bars were worth it. Nothing dramatic, nothing broken. At 6:12 p.m., her chest tightened. At 6:13, her phone vibrated, unknown number. It's about to hurt. She frowned, wiped her eyes, and typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, stopped. Then, don't ask him why. Ask him how long he's been practicing saying it. Her stomach flipped. She told herself it was spam, a prank, a coincidence. Still, she opened her chat thread and scrolled. Nothing weird. Last message from him. Running late. Traffic sucks. Her phone buzzed again. He's rehearsing in the car. Her pulse picked up. She typed, "This isn't funny." No response. 10 minutes passed. Then another text. He'll stand by the counter, not the couch. That means he doesn't plan to. Stay! Her eyes slid to the kitchen. The counter faced the door. She hadn't noticed before, but yes. That was where people stood when they were nervous, when they wanted space. Her phone vibrated. He won't take his jacket off. A car door slammed outside. Headlights flashed through her blinds. Her chest started hurting for real now. She whispered, "No." Footsteps. Keys. The lock turned. Caleb stepped inside, jacket still on, didn't move toward her, went straight to the counter, set his phone down. Her own buzzed in her hand. Now. He opened his mouth. She spoke first. "How long have you been practicing that?" He froze. "What?" She stood slowly. "How long have you been practicing what you're about to say?" His face drained. "What are you talking about?" Her phone buzzed. "Watch his right hand." She looked. His fingers curled, uncurled, over and over, the way people do when they're bracing themselves. She whispered, "Who told you?" "Told me what?" "You're breaking up with me." Silence. He didn't deny it. Her phone vibrated again. "Don't let him sit. If he sits, he'll stay longer than he should." He pulled out the stool. She said sharply, "Don't." He blinked. "Okay." She stared at her screen, hands shaking. "Who are you?" The response came instantly. Someone who stayed when he left. Her blood went cold. "What does that mean?" No reply. Caleb swallowed. "I didn't want to hurt you." She laughed weakly. "I know, you practiced." He stared. "How do you know that?" She didn't answer. Her phone buzzed one last time. "He isn't the one who sent the first message." She whispered. "Then who did?" The typing bubble appeared, paused, appeared again. Then, "Check your sent messages." Her hands trembled as she opened the thread, scrolled. At 6:11 p.m., 1 minute before she started crying, there was a message she didn't remember writing, sent from her phone to the unknown number. "Is he ready to tell me yet?" And beneath it, a photo taken from inside her apartment, from behind her couch, showing her sitting alone, crying before she'd started. Story 11. The man who was afraid of his own reflection. Everyone said Lucas had wasted his life being careful. Talented kid, math competitions, scholarships, professors who remembered his name years later. The kind of person who could have gone anywhere. He stayed home, worked at a quiet engineering firm, didn't travel, didn't drive at night, didn't swim in deep water, didn't sit near windows. People joked that fear had clipped his wings. They weren't wrong. What nobody knew was why. It started when he was 17, late night, bathroom light buzzing softly overhead. He'd leaned over the sink to wash paint from his hands after working in the garage and froze. His reflection hadn't bent with him. It stayed, upright, watching. He straightened. The reflection straightened half a second later. He laughed it off. Stress, eyes playing tricks. But after that, mirrors made him uneasy. Glass, too. Store windows, car doors, phone screens in the dark. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the version of him looking back blinked at the wrong time, or smiled too late. Years passed. It didn't get worse. It didn't go away either. Until one night at 34, he caught himself reflected in the black TV screen while brushing his teeth. He wasn't smiling. The reflection was. Slow, stretching, practicing. Lucas dropped his toothbrush. It shattered in the sink. He didn't look back, didn't check, didn't even turn the TV off. He slept with the bathroom door shut, then with towels draped over mirrors, then with lights on, then not much at all. The breaking point came when his apartment replaced the hallway glass panel during renovations. Floor to ceiling, sleek, polished, impossible to avoid. The first night he hurried past it. The second he saw the movement, not his. The third, it followed him. Not when he walked, when he stopped. The reflection would keep going. One step, two, then freeze once he noticed. That night, he stood in his hallway for 20 minutes straight. Didn't blink, didn't breathe properly. The reflection twitched, just a little, like it was uncomfortable being held in place. Lucas whispered, "What do you want?" The reflection tilted its head. He didn't. Behind him, the bathroom mirror shattered. Story 12. We thought the lottery saved him. Marcus cried when he won. Full-on shaking, sank to his knees crying. He worked 2 jobs, slept in his car half the week, ate vending machine dinners and kept his clothes in garbage bags. Everyone at the gas station where he worked chipped in for tickets whenever jackpots climbed. He didn't even believe in it, until his numbers came up. Millions. Enough to disappear. Enough to breathe. Enough to stop worrying about whether tomorrow would hurt. The first thing he bought wasn't a car, wasn't a house, wasn't anything flashy. He paid off people's debts, mine included, sent checks with handwritten notes. Don't ask questions. Just breathe for a bit. That should have been the clue. 6 months later, he was gone. Not missing. Gone. Sold everything. Deleted accounts. Disconnected numbers. No forwarding address. Just vanished. I only found him because he mailed me something. No return address. Inside, a burner phone. 1 photo. A text typed on paper. They didn't stop when I paid them. The phone rang when I turned it on. 1 call. Breathing, slow, wet. Marcus's voice whispered, "Don't spend it." "What?" I said. "Any of it." "You left me money." "I know. What are you talking about?" Silence. Then, "They didn't give me cash. They gave me time." My stomach tightened. "Who?" "The ones who make room." The call dropped. The phone screen changed. Not call ended. Something else. Camera, front-facing, showing me. Standing in my kitchen, holding it. From somewhere behind me. Story 13. The girl who met her soulmate on the train. She almost missed him. That was what made it feel important later. Like the universe had nearly let something slip. The train was crowded in that exhausted end-of-day way. Coats damp from rain, people half asleep against windows, phones glowing pale blue in tired hands. She squeezed into an empty seat near the middle just as the doors chimed shut. Across from her sat a man about her age, dark hair, soft eyes, reading the same paperback novel she'd brought with her. She blinked, looked down at the book in her lap. Same cover, same creased spine, same torn corner. He noticed her staring and smiled. "Oh," he said, "that's, weird." She laughed, surprised by how natural it felt. "Yeah. What chapter are you on?" She hesitated. 32. His eyebrows rose. "Me too?" They compared lines, same sentence, same paragraph, same dog-eared page. It should have felt impossible. Instead, it felt right. They talked the rest of the ride about books, childhood towns, favorite childhood TV shows. Every answer matched too closely, but not in a rehearsed way. Like two people who'd been shaped by the same invisible mold. When her stop came, she stood reluctantly. "Well," she said, "nice meeting." He stood too. "This is mine." She frowned. The train map above them said otherwise. Her stop was 3 stations past his. "You sure?" He glanced up. The map flickered, rearranged. Now his stop and hers shared the same blinking dot. Uh-huh. They stepped onto the platform together. It was nearly empty, just concrete, humming lights, dark tunnels stretching both directions. "Want to grab coffee?" he asked. She smiled. "Yeah." They walked, past the exit, past the ticket kiosks, down a hallway she didn't remember being there before. The lights buzzed louder, the air colder. "You come this way a lot?" she asked. He nodded. "All the time." That wasn't true. She rode this line every day. There was no hallway like this. She slowed. He slowed, mirrored her. "You okay?" She swallowed. "Yeah, just thought the exit was back there." He tilted his head. It moved. The lights behind them shut off, one by one. Click, click, click. She stopped walking. He didn't. He kept moving forward, without footsteps, just gliding. His smile stayed in place. "You don't have to worry," he said gently. "Everyone gets nervous the first time." Her chest tightened. "First time what?" "Meeting yourself." She stared. "That's not funny." He stepped into brighter light, and she saw his face, her face, not perfectly, older, hollowed, smiling with teeth that didn't belong to a mouth. Behind him, the tunnel stretched wider, waiting. Story 14. The trip that should have taken 6 hours. It was supposed to be simple. 6 hours, drive through 2 states, drop off a box of old family photos, sleep in a motel, come back Sunday. The highway stayed empty longer than expected. That was nice at first, then unsettling. No rest stops, no billboards, no trucks, just road and trees and mist pooling low over the asphalt. The radio crackled, lost signal, found it again, lost it. Her GPS froze, rebooted, said, "Continue straight, 417 miles. That wasn't possible. She zoomed out. The map didn't change, just more road, same shape, same bend, same forest. She drove another hour. The gas gauge didn't move. The sun didn't set. The same pale orange smear stayed locked behind the trees. She pulled over, got out. The air smelled stale, like a closed basement. She walked 10 feet from the car. The road behind her looked shorter, like it didn't extend as far back as it should. She hurried back in, locked the doors, drove. A green highway sign appeared. Exit 12, last stop. Relief surged. She took it. The ramp curved, kept curving downward. The trees leaned inward, branches scraping the roof. The road narrowed, then ended, in front of a gas station. Lights on, pumps glowing, no cars. Inside, a man stood behind the counter, didn't look up. She pushed the door open, the bell rang. "Hi." No response. "I'm lost." He nodded. "Everyone is." She frowned. "I just need directions." He finally looked up. His eyes were wrong, too reflective, like mirrors. "You've been driving a long time." She swallowed. 6 hours. He shook his head slowly. Try 2 days. Her phone vibrated, no service, but a notification, low fuel, 0 miles she'd filled up. That morning, she whispered, "That's not possible." The man smiled. "It is here." Behind her, the pumps outside went dark, one by one. Story 15, the couple who picked up the hitchhiker. They almost didn't stop. It was raining too hard, middle of nowhere, 1-lane road slicing through forest. But the man on the shoulder had no coat, no umbrella, just stood there with his thumb out, staring at the passing headlights. "You think it's safe?" she asked. He slowed. "I don't like it." The man didn't wave, didn't move, just waited. They passed him. Then both glanced in the mirror. The road was empty, no man. She frowned. Where'd he go? They drove another mile. Headlights swept over him again. Same spot, same posture. "That's impossible." He hit the brakes. The car skidded slightly as they stopped. The man leaned in at the window. Water streamed off his hair. Didn't blink. "Thank you," he said, voice flat. They let him in. He sat behind them, didn't shake water off, didn't buckle, didn't ask names, didn't say where he was going. After 10 minutes, she asked, "So, where you headed?" "Home." "Where's that?" He smiled. "Close." The heater blasted. He didn't steam, didn't warm. She glanced back. His clothes were dry, bone dry. "You cold?" "No." "Wet?" "No." They drove. The rain stopped. The forest thinned. She checked the mirror again. The back seat was empty. "What the?" The man sat between them now, not touching either, smiling forward. They hadn't heard him move. "Did you just..." He tilted his head. "You passed it." "Past what?" "The place I get off." Her heart hammered. "Where?" He looked ahead. "Here." The road ended, dropped away. No shoulder, no trees, just darkness, and the headlights didn't reach the bottom. Story 16. The children found something that wasn't sleeping. They weren't supposed to be in that part of the woods. Every kid in town knew it. The quarry trail ended at the rusted fence, and past that was just trees, steep drops, and old warning signs, with the paint peeled away until the words didn't matter anymore, which was exactly why they climbed it. 7 of them, bikes ditched in the brush, backpacks stuffed with soda cans and flashlights, daring each other to go farther while the afternoon light turned golden and long through the branches. Mara was the one who saw it first. "Guys." No one listened. "Guys." Still nothing. Then she yelled. They stopped. "What?" She pointed at the ravine. The ground dipped sharply between 2 rock faces, a moss slick and dark where water trickled down. At the bottom lay something pale. At first it looked like a mannequin, a prank, someone's trash. Then the breeze lifted a sleeve. Skin, a real skin. Jonah slid halfway down before anyone could stop him. "Don't touch it!" He froze. "I didn't." The body lay on its side, half buried in leaves and wet dirt. Eyes closed like someone sleeping in shade. Too peaceful. No blood. No obvious injuries. Just still. Mara whispered, "Is it dead?" Jonah leaned closer. "I think so." The chest didn't rise, didn't fall. One shoe was missing. The socked foot was gray. Someone gagged. "We should go." Then the fingers twitched. Not fast, not dramatic. Just a small curl, like someone waking from a nap. Jonah stumbled back, slipping on moss. The body's eyes opened, cloudy, unfocused. The mouth moved. No sound came out, but something answered. From under the leaves, a low shifting, like more bodies were breathing down there too. Story 17. The man who couldn't spend his money. He didn't tell anyone he'd won at first, just stopped showing up to work, stopped answering texts, stopped being broke. When he finally invited people over, the apartment was empty except for a mattress on the floor and stacks of cash taped inside freezer bags. No furniture, no TV, no decorations, just money everywhere. "Dude," someone said, laughing nervously, "you planning on bathing in it?" He didn't smile. "They don't like when I move it." "Who?" He hesitated. "The ones that delivered it." That killed the mood. He kept glancing at the corners, at the vents, at the bathroom mirror. "They said it replaces things." "What things?" He swallowed. "Time." Later that night, he locked himself in the bathroom, screaming when the door finally came down. The money in the freezer bags had turned soft, warm, breathing. Story 18. The woman who met the stranger on the trail. She liked hiking alone. Early mornings, fog still clinging low to the ground, birds just starting to wake, the kind of silence that felt earned. Halfway up the ridge trail, she passed a man standing off to the side, staring into the trees. No backpack, no water bottle, no phone, just jeans and a long coat. "Morning," she said. He didn't look at her, kept watching the forest. She walked past. 5 minutes later, he was ahead of her. Same posture, same direction. She slowed. So did he. She sped up. He stayed 10 paces in front. "You okay?" she called. He turned, smiled politely. "You walk very quietly." She frowned. "I didn't pass you." He nodded. "I know." She backed up. The fog thickened between them. "You should go back," he added. "Why?" "Because the trail ends today." Behind her, footsteps, not hers, many, soft, from deeper in the trees. Story 19. The scar that kept growing. She noticed it in the shower, not because it hurt, because it hadn't been there when she went to bed. A pale line ran across the side of her ribs, thin as thread, raised just enough to catch water as it streamed down her skin. She tilted sideways, squinting in the fogged mirror, fingers tracing it gently. It felt old, not tender, not fresh, like something that had healed long ago. But she knew her body, knew every freckle, every mole, every stretch mark. This wasn't one of them. She dried off and leaned closer to the mirror. The line curved, almost deliberate, like the start of a symbol. She laughed it off, scraped herself on something, a branch, a wire, something stupid. But when she dressed, the fabric rubbed against it in a way that made her shiver. Not from pain, but from a low, buzzing awareness under her skin. At work, she kept checking bathroom stalls, reflections in dark screens. It didn't change until lunch. She lifted her shirt just enough in the office restroom to look again. The scar was longer, not dramatically, an inch maybe, creeping toward her spine. Her mouth went dry. Skin didn't move like that. She pressed around it. No swelling, no redness, just smooth healed tissue. She snapped a photo, compared it to the one she'd taken that morning. Different, longer. She left work early. At home she showered again, scrubbing gently. The line didn't fade, didn't redden, didn't react at all. She sat on her bed in a towel, phone in her lap, Googling phrases she couldn't quite articulate. Scar appeared overnight, skin line growing marks under ribs. Nothing helped. That night she dreamed of thread, of someone sewing under her skin with slow, careful fingers, tugging tighter every time she shifted. She woke, sweating. The scar reached her back. Story 20. The kids who waited for the bus that never came. The bus stop wasn't supposed to be there. Eli had lived in that neighborhood his entire life, knew every mailbox, every crack in the sidewalk, every storm drain that flooded when it rained too hard. The metal pole with the faded yellow sign had not been on the corner yesterday. Now it was, bent slightly, half sunk into the grass. 3 kids stood under it, not talking, not scrolling phones, not kicking rocks, just waiting. He slowed his bike. Bus run late or something? None of them looked at him. Their backpacks hung heavy on their shoulders. One kid had frost on his hoodie. It was September. Hey, the smallest one blinked, slow. It already came. Eli frowned. You're still here. The girl tilted her head. We missed it. Why? It didn't open. He glanced down the road, empty, no tire marks, no engine noise. Well, another will come? The tallest kid shook his head. No? How do you know? It only stops once. A wind slid through the street. Leaves rattled. The pole creaked. Eli noticed something else then. Their shoes were wet. Not dew wet. River wet. Mud crusted the hems of their pants. You guys walked through a ditch or something. The girl whispered. We walked through the road. That's not. She pointed behind him. Eli turned. The asphalt shimmered, just for a second, like heat haze. When he looked back, they were all staring at him, hungry, hopeful. Do you see it too? See what? The long one. His stomach tightened. What long one? The bus. Story 21. The couple who took the wrong trail marker. The sign wasn't new. That was the problem. Wooden, weathered, carved letters, Raven Falls, 2 miles. They'd hiked Raven Falls dozens of times, knew the trail, knew the switchbacks, knew the footbridge. This wasn't where the sign normally stood. You sure this is right? Lila asked. Her boyfriend checked his phone. No service. She frowned. I swear the trailhead's farther up. He shrugged. Maybe they moved it. They followed the arrow. The path narrowed. Pine needles swallowed footprints. Birdsong faded. The forest grew dense, enough that sunlight came in thin needles instead of sheets. After 10 minutes, they should have reached the first overlook. They didn't. After 20, no bridge, no river, just trees. Quiet. They stopped. This isn't right. He nodded slowly. I know. Behind them, no sign, no trail, just forest closing in. They turned, walked back. 5 minutes, 10, nothing. Panic crept in. Okay, Lila whispered. Okay. They found another marker. Same wood, same carving. Raven Falls, 2 miles facing the opposite direction. He swallowed. We didn't pass this. She whispered. We did. The arrow pointed deeper, and somewhere far ahead, water roared, loud, close, even though they hadn't heard a river in over an hour. Story 22. The road that kept changing names. The first sign said Morrisville, 12 miles. That was fine. Daniel had driven this highway dozens of times, always at night, always after visiting his ex-sister. 2 lanes, pine forest on both sides, occasional gas station glow in the distance. Easy. 5 minutes later, another sign, Morrisville, 12 miles. He frowned. He hadn't turned, hadn't slowed, hadn't passed an exit. The odometer ticked forward. Trees rushed past. The sky stayed the same dull violet, moon hidden behind cloud. Weird, he muttered. 10 minutes later, Morrisville, 12 miles. His chest tightened. He checked his GPS. Loading. Maps snapped in. The road behind him curved normally. The road ahead, blank. No labels, just gray. He slowed. The radio crackled into static. then voices layered under it. Talk radio bleeding into weather reports, bleeding into music, bleeding into something that sounded like breathing. He shut it off. The headlights seemed weaker, not dim, shorter, like they didn't reach as far anymore. Another sign loomed, different font, older wood, hand-painted Morrisville, 12 Mile Someone, had scratched something beneath it. A second word, faint. He passed too fast to read it. Daniel swallowed, pulled over, got out. The forest smelled sour, wet leaves, mold, cold metal. The highway behind him curved out of sight. The highway ahead ended, just stopped. No barrier, no turn, no cliff. The asphalt simply melted into dirt and roots and shadow. He stared. No. He backed up. Tires crunched. The road returned, solid, blacktop, painted lines. His phone buzzed. No signal bars, just a notification banner. You are still on it. He whispered. On what? Another banner, the long way behind him. Engine noise, not his. Headlights, approaching, fast, too fast. He dove back into his car, started it, floored it. The forest blurred. A sign flashed past, different town, different letters, different number. Morrisville, 12M, and underneath, scratched deeper now. Stay in your lane. Story 23, the babysitter who wouldn't sit down. The parents left at exactly 7 o'clock. Car backing out, garage closing, house falling into that quiet, hollow echo it only has when adults leave. Emma texted her boyfriend here, tossed her jacket over the chair, and wandered into the kitchen while the two kids played in the living room. Easy money, 2 boys, 8 and 10, movie night, pizza in the fridge. She poured soda. Everything good, she called. Yeah? One of them said, from the couch. 10 minutes later, she noticed she was still standing. Didn't remember choosing to. She leaned against the counter, checked her phone, scroll, text, reply. Then, Emma. Yeah? You can sit, the younger one said. She laughed. I'm fine. You should sit. She glanced over. Both boys were staring at her, not the TV, not each other. Her. Why? The older one shrugged. Because he doesn't like when you stand. Cold slid into her ribs. Who? They hesitated, then... Dad! She blinked. Your dad's not home. He is, the younger one whispered. He just doesn't walk around anymore. Emma forced a smile. Okay, that's creepy. She took 2 steps toward the couch. The air shifted, heavy, like humidity before a storm. Her knees tingled. She sat. Instant relief washed through her, like pressure easing. The boys relaxed. The younger one smiled. Thank you. What happens if I stand? She asked. The older one didn't look at her. He stands too? Emma swallowed. Where? They both looked behind her, at the dark hallway, the one that led to the bedrooms. A floorboard creaked, slow, careful, like weight redistributing. Emma didn't move, didn't blink, didn't turn around. Her phone buzzed, a new text from her boyfriend. Why are you still at the door? She stared, typed back. What door? 3 dots. Stopped. Then, the one behind you, the hallway creaked again, closer, lower, as if something tall had bent down, waiting for her to get up. Story 1, my son wouldn't come out of the trees. We weren't supposed to stop. That was the rule I'd repeated to myself the entire drive. No random pull-offs, no let's just stretch for a minute. No wandering into places without names on the map. We were already behind schedule, daylight thinning fast, the sky going from pale blue to bruised purple as the road wound deeper into forest. But my son Ethan had been quiet for too long. 8-year-old quiet. The kind that meant he was either asleep or planning something. "Ethan," I said, glancing in the rearview mirror. He wasn't asleep. He was staring out the window, not at the road, not at the sky, at the trees. They rushed past in dark vertical blurs, pine and cedar packed tight, undergrowth swallowing the spaces between trunks. Every now and then a dirt track cut off from the highway, unmarked, narrow, already half claimed by weeds. "Dad," he said slowly. "Yeah? Those trees are the same." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He squinted, forehead pressed to the glass. "We passed that one already." I slowed without meaning to. "They all look alike, buddy." "No." He pointed. "That one's bent, and that rock, and the stick shaped like a Y." My stomach tightened. The speedometer said 50. The scenery shouldn't repeat. Then my phone lost signal. The little bars vanished one by one. The radio cut mid-song, voice stretching into a warped drawl before dropping into silence. I checked the clock. 6:42 p.m. It had been 6:42 for a while. "How about we?" I started. Ethan unbuckled. The click sounded too loud. "Hey, don't do that." "I just want to look." "We're not stopping." The car slowed anyway. I hadn't touched the brake. The shoulder widened into a gravel pull-off that I didn't remember seeing. No sign, no picnic table, just crushed stone and trees leaning close, branches reaching over the edge of the road like ribs. The engine idled. Ethan's door handle clicked. "Ethan?" He opened it before I could finish. Cold air slid in, sharp and wet, carrying the smell of moss and old leaves and something faintly metallic underneath. He stepped out. "Get back in the car." "I just want to check the tree." "What tree?" "The crooked one." He walked toward the tree line, too fast. I killed the engine and got out, gravel crunching under my shoes. "Ethan, stop." He slowed, didn't turn around. The forest was quiet. No birds, no insects, no wind. Every sound seemed to stop at the edge of the trees, like the woods had its own rules about noise. "Come back," I said, keeping my voice calm even as something cold slid into my ribs. He stood just inside the shadow of the branches. "I hear something." "What?" He tilted his head. "Me." My pulse jumped. "What do you mean?" "It sounds like me," he said softly. I took a step forward. The gravel ended, leaf litter began. The air cooled the second I crossed the invisible line between road and forest, like stepping into a basement. "Ethan, that's enough." He lifted one hand, not waving, pointing deeper between the trunks. "There's another boy," he said. I scanned the trees. Nothing moved, no flash of color, no silhouette, just bark and shadow layered so tightly it hurt to focus. "There isn't." "Yes, there is." "Where?" He swallowed. "Behind that tree." I walked up beside him, gripping his shoulder. The forest smelled stronger here. Wet soil, sap, something sweet and rotten at the same time. "I don't see anyone." Ethan frowned. "That's because he's standing the wrong way." "Wrong way how?" "He's facing me." I tightened my grip. "Get in the car." He didn't resist. That scared me more than if he had. We turned together. The road was still there, the car too, but it felt farther, like the gravel had stretched. Ethan whispered, "He's closer now." I didn't look back. I carried him the rest of the way. When I shoved him into his seat and slammed the door, my hands were shaking. I locked it, got in, started the engine. It hesitated, coughed, then turned over. I pulled back onto the road without checking mirrors. We drove. The trees blurred again. The radio came back to life mid-song. My phone pinged. Signal restored. The clock ticked forward. 6:43. I exhaled. Slow. Careful. Ethan hadn't spoken. I glanced back at him. He was watching the rear window. Dad? Yes. He didn't follow us. Relief washed through me. Good. A pause. Then he went the other way. My throat went dry. What other way? He leaned closer to the glass, through the trees. I swallowed. And he's faster in there. Story 2. My wife swore the mirror was late. We were already inside the motel when she said it. The kind of roadside place you only choose when it's getting dark and you've been driving too long. Buzzing sign, thin carpets patterned with stains no one had bothered to hide. Lobby smelling faintly of bleach and burned coffee. Ethan had fallen asleep in the car almost immediately after the trees. His head tipped against the window, breath fogging the glass. I carried him inside. The clerk didn't look up when we checked in. Not rude, just fixed. Her eyes stayed on the computer screen while she slid the keycard across the counter. Room 12, ground floor. You're headed east, she said. I frowned. We are? She nodded once. Didn't elaborate. The room smelled cleaner than it should have. Sharp detergent and ozone, like someone had just finished airing it out with a fan. The curtains were drawn even though it was still twilight outside, and the TV glowed blue with no signal. My wife set our bags down slowly. This place feels off. It's fine, I said, because that's what you say when you don't want your kid waking up scared. I put Ethan on the nearer bed and kicked off my shoes. My wife went into the bathroom. She stopped, didn't come back out. Everything okay? I called. Come here. Her voice was thin. I walked over. She stood in front of the sink, staring at the mirror. What? She pointed. The mirror reflected the bathroom, reflected her, reflected me. Normal. What am I looking at? She swallowed. Watch. She raised her hand. The reflection followed. After a second, not much, just enough to make my stomach twist. She lowered it. The reflection lagged again. A soft, syrupy delay. I laughed once, too loud. You're tired. She shook her head. Do it, she said. I lifted my hand. My reflection hesitated, then copied me. Half a beat late. My chest tightened. That's weird. Mirrors. Don't do that. I leaned closer. The glass was cold. I waved both hands quickly. The reflection stuttered, like buffering video, then caught up. The lights flickered. For an instant, the reflection didn't. My wife whispered, "It blinked." I stared. It hadn't. Now it was normal. Too normal. I leaned in closer. So did my reflection. At the same time. Then it smiled. I hadn't. Story 3. My daughter waited at the bottom of the stairs. The house wasn't ours. That was obvious the moment we stepped inside. We were staying with friends, people my wife knew from college, while passing through town, and the place had that curated, barely lived-in feeling. Pale walls, spotless floors, framed prints of landscapes that felt more like placeholders than decorations. Ethan, still sleepy from the drive, had been handed off to the guest room upstairs while our friends finished dinner. I went to grab him some water. That was when I saw her. My daughter stood at the bottom of the staircase, barefoot, one hand resting on the banister, looking up. I stopped halfway across the living room. "Hey," I whispered, "you're supposed to be in bed." She didn't turn. "I am." "No, you're not." She tilted her head slightly, still staring at the dark landing above. Not yet. The upstairs lights were off, all of them. The hallway at the top was a black rectangle. I moved closer. The banister was warm where her hand touched it. You okay? She nodded. Who were you talking to? No one. She paused. Someone. My stomach tightened. Where? She pointed upward. Up there. I crouched next to her. There's nobody there. Yes, there is. I followed her gaze. The darkness didn't move, didn't shift, didn't breathe, just sat there. You can't see him, she added. Why not? He's standing too close to the wall. I swallowed. What? Does he want? She shrugged. He keeps asking if I'm tired yet. Behind me, someone laughed in the kitchen. Dishes clinked. Normal. Warm. None of it reached the staircase. I took her hand. Let's go back upstairs together. She hesitated, then nodded. As we climbed, each step creaked, except the one beneath her. That one was silent. Halfway up, she whispered, He moved. I froze. Where? Behind you. I didn't turn. Story 4. My brother was already inside the shed. The shed hadn't been there that morning. I was sure of it. We'd driven up to the old property just after noon. The half-collapsed farmhouse, the sagging fence, the weeds tall enough to hide rusted equipment. My brother Caleb had been joking the whole way about ghosts and buried treasure while we unloaded boxes from the trucks. Now it was dusk, and the shed sat at the edge of the field like it had always belonged there. Gray wood, tin roof, a single window clouded with grime. Was that here earlier? I asked. Caleb didn't answer. He was already walking toward it. You don't remember that? He called back over his shoulder. No. He shrugged. Looks normal. Nothing about it did. The grass around the shed was pressed flat, as though something heavy had been dragged back and forth between it and the tree line. The air smelled damp, metallic, oil and old water and something sweet underneath. Caleb reached the door. It was open. He leaned in. You see anything? He didn't wait for me. He stepped inside. Caleb. No answer. I crossed the field, boots brushing through weeds that rasped against my jeans. The sun slipped lower, throwing orange light through the dusty window. Caleb, stop messing around. The interior was darker than it should have been. Shadows clinging thick to the corners. Tools hung from hooks along one wall. Shovels, saws, coils of rope. Too neat for a place that looked this abandoned. Caleb stood in the center of the floor, still, facing the back wall. What are you doing? He didn't turn. I stepped inside. The temperature dropped, not chilly. Basement cold. Caleb. He raised one hand, slowly, pointed at the wall. There were marks there, scratches, long, shallow grooves pressed into the wood, like something had leaned its weight against it again and again. They were here already, he said. My stomach tightened. They weren't here this morning. He nodded. I know. I swallowed. Then why are you standing so close? He took a step forward. The wall bowed, just a little, like something had pressed back from the other side. Story 5. My friend wouldn't stop skipping stones. The lake was wrong in that quiet, lazy way that tricks you into thinking nothing is wrong at all. We'd hiked down to it late afternoon, me, Jenna, Marcus, and Theo, following a barely marked trail through thick summer woods until the trees suddenly opened into water so still it looked poured instead of natural. No waves, no bugs skating on the surface, no breeze making patterns, just a smooth, dark oval tucked into rock and cattails. Marcus was the first to grab stones. Watch this, he said, crouching near the edge and flicking a flat rock across the water. 1 skip, 2, 3. The ripples spread wider than they should have, long rings traveling all the way to the far shore before fading. Nice, Jenna said. Theo frowned. That sounded thick. Marcus laughed. You guys are dramatic. He threw another. 4 skips this time. 5. Each tap sounded duller than the last. Not splashy, muted, like knocking on wet rubber. Jenna folded her arms. Okay, that's weird. Marcus tossed again. The rock didn't skip, it sank. Straight down, no splash, no ripples, just gone. Marcus blinked. Did you see that? Theo crouched beside him. Try another. Marcus did. Same thing. Drop. Vanished. The lake swallowed it like a hole in space. Jenna whispered, That's not how water works. Marcus leaned closer. Maybe it's deeper than it looks. He tossed a pebble. Gone. He reached for another stone. I grabbed his wrist. Stop. He stared at me. Why? Because something's off. He shrugged me off. Threw again. The surface dimpled, then bulged upward, just slightly, as if something beneath it had shifted. Theo stepped back. Nope. Marcus froze. The bulge drifted sideways, slow, controlled, tracking the place where his last stone had vanished. Marcus whispered, Guys. The water stilled again. No ripples, no waves, just glass. Jenna whispered, Marcus, step away. He did. The bulge followed. He backed up. So did it. He swallowed. It thinks I'm throwing food. Story 6. My wife wouldn't answer when I called her name. It started with the door. Not slamming. Not creaking. Just being open. I was halfway through unloading groceries when I noticed the breeze drifting through the kitchen, lifting the edge of a receipt on the counter and nudging a cereal box sideways. The back door stood wide, screen rattling softly in its frame. My wife always locked it, always. We lived too far from town, trees crowding close around the yard, the woods pressing right up against the fence line in a way that made nights feel closer than they should. Honey, I called. No answer. I shut the door and slid the bolt into place. It clicked louder than normal in the quiet house. The hallway light was off. She usually kept it on in the evenings. I carried the bags down the hall, calling her name again, louder this time. Still nothing. The living room was empty, couch cushions neatly arranged, TV dark. Her shoes were by the door. Her phone sat charging on the side table. She hadn't gone anywhere. The bathroom light was on. The door stood halfway open. Steam curled out. My stomach tightened. I set the bags down and walked toward it slowly, listening. The shower wasn't running. The sink wasn't dripping. Just warmth. The mirror was fogged, so thick I couldn't see my reflection when I stepped inside. Honey? I said again. Nothing. The towel on the rack was damp, freshly damp, like someone had just used it and put it back. I wiped the mirror with my sleeve. A clear oval appeared. The bathroom behind me looked normal, empty. Then I realized something was wrong. The reflection didn't show the hallway behind me. Just more bathroom. Too much bathroom. Like the room was deeper in the glass than it was in real life. I leaned closer. The reflection leaned too. Just a fraction slower. My throat went dry. I lifted my hand. It followed. Late. Not much. Just enough to make my skin prickle. Honey, I whispered, this time to the mirror. Behind me, the hallway stayed silent. In the reflection, a shape moved not behind me, behind the version of me in the glass, tall, blurred by steam, standing in the extra stretch of bathroom that didn't exist. I didn't turn. I stared straight ahead, pulse roaring in my ears. The shape lifted an arm. My reflection didn't. I backed out of the bathroom without breaking eye contact. The mirror kept showing the longer room. The fog thickened again, erasing it. I stood in the hallway shaking, listening for footsteps, for breathing, for anything. Nothing. I ran through the house. Bedroom, empty. Closet, empty. Laundry room, empty. Back porch, empty. My wife was gone, but the house was still warm in the places she should have been. The couch cushion indented, the bathroom towel damp, the air smelling faintly of her shampoo. I grabbed my phone and called her. It rang from inside the house. Not her phone on the charger, from somewhere deeper, behind the walls, down the hallway. Didn't answer it. The ringing stopped on its own. Then, from the bathroom, came her voice, soft, confused, calling my name. From the mirror. Story 7. My daughter kept waving at someone in the snow. It wasn't supposed to snow that night. The forecast had promised cold, sure, sharp winter air and clear skies, but nothing about storms, nothing about the kind of thick, silent snowfall that erases the world in under an hour. We were driving home from visiting my sister, headlights carving 2 pale tunnels through darkness, when my daughter pressed her hands to the back window. "Daddy," she said softly. I glanced in the mirror. "What is it?" "There's someone behind us." I checked the road, empty, just tire tracks stretching back into white blur, trees heavy with frost leaning over the shoulders of the highway. "I don't see anyone." She tilted her head. "They keep waving." My stomach tightened. "Who?" "The man in the coat." My wife twisted in her seat. "Sweetheart, there's no one there." "Yes, there is." She lifted her mitten and waved back. Slow, careful, like she didn't want to upset him. "Don't do that," I said. "Why not? He's cold." I slowed the car. Snow muffled everything. Engine noise, wind, the distant rush of nothing at all. The world felt padded like we'd driven into a soundproof room. I pulled onto the shoulder. "Why did you stop?" my wife asked. "To show you." I got out. Cold slapped my face, needles of ice in the air. The road behind us was empty except for drifting flakes in our own tracks. No footprints, no coat, no waving man. I climbed back in. "There's nobody." My daughter frowned. "He went into the trees." I turned around in my seat. "What trees?" "The ones that weren't there before." I followed her finger. The tree line looked closer than it had a minute ago. Branches bowed under snow, black veins against white sky. "We should keep driving," my wife whispered. "I think so." I put the car back in gear. It didn't move. The tires spun quietly. Snow hissed. My daughter leaned forward. "He doesn't like when we stop." My pulse jumped. "Who?" "The man." "Where is he now?" She smiled. "Next to my door." I turned my head slowly. The back passenger window was fogged, not from breath, from cold. A handprint appeared on the outside, pressed flat against the glass. 5 long fingers, too long, sliding downward. My daughter waved again. "He says you can't see him because he's standing in the warm part." My wife whispered, "Drive." "I'm trying." The engine whined. The handprint stayed. Then another appeared beside it. Lower, smaller, like a second set of fingers had joined the first. My daughter frowned. "Oh, what?" "He brought someone." The snow fell harder. The tree line crept closer, and from behind the fogged glass came a soft sound. 3 gentle taps, right where her head rested. Story 8. My friend wouldn't stop walking into the fog. We should have turned back when the fog rolled in. It came off the valley floor in a slow white tide, swallowing the trail behind us first, then the trees, then the sound of our own footsteps until everything felt distant and padded, like the world had been wrapped in cotton. "There wasn't fog on the forecast," Lena muttered, checking her phone for the third time. "No signal, of course." Tom kept walking, not fast, not slow, just steady, like he had a destination only he could see. "Tom," I called. He didn't answer. "Tom!" I jogged a few steps to catch up, boots crunching softly on gravel that vanished almost as soon as my foot lifted. The fog thickened, 10 feet of visibility, 5. Tom's silhouette blurred ahead of me, long coat smudged into gray. "Dude, slow down." He kept going. Lena whispered, "He's not even looking around." She was right. His head was tilted forward slightly, eyes locked on something beyond the white. I grabbed his arm. Cold, not cold like skin, cold like metal left outside all night. "Tom, stop." He turned, smiled faintly. "I think I see the road." "There is no road." He looked past me. "You don't see it?" "No." He nodded slowly. "That's okay. It's closer for me." I tightened my grip. The fog shifted, not wind-driven, intentional. It pulled around him, thinning in a narrow corridor ahead while staying thick everywhere else. Lena whispered. It made a path. Tom stepped forward. The fog moved with him. I stumbled as the ground dipped. "Tom!" He shrugged my hand off gently. "It's fine. They're waiting." My stomach nodded. "Who?" He hesitated. "The people that walked here before." A sound drifted through the fog. Footsteps. Not ours. Not Tom's. Many. Soft. Out of sync. Lena squeezed my sleeve. "We're not alone." Tom took another step. The fog parted wider. Beyond it, something tall leaned sideways, barely visible through the white, like a shadow trying to stand upright. Tom lifted his hand. "They're waving." I pulled him back hard. The fog rushed in, filled the space where he'd been going. The shape vanished. Tom blinked, confused. Where'd it go? We didn't answer. We turned around and found no trail behind us. Story 9. My brother kept calling from the basement. The basement light had been on all evening. That alone wasn't strange. We stored tools down there, holiday decorations, boxes we kept meaning to sort through. But my brother had gone down almost an hour ago to grab a flashlight and hadn't come back. I was halfway through washing dishes when I realized how quiet the house had become. No footsteps, no radio from his phone, no muttering, just a steady drip of the kitchen faucet and the faint electrical hum from the fridge. "Eric," I called. Nothing. I shut off the water and listened. From beneath the floor came a sound, not movement, breathing, slow, careful, too slow for someone climbing stairs. "Eric," I called again, louder. A pause, then his voice floated up through the vents. "I found something." My stomach tightened. "What?" "A room." I frowned. "There isn't another room." There was a short laugh from below. "There is now." I dried my hands and walked to the basement door. It stood open a crack, yellow light spilling out onto the hallway carpet. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said, too fast. I stepped closer. The stairs creaked under my weight, wood groaning with the familiar complaints of an old house. The air cooled the farther down I went, damp and mineral smelling, concrete and mildew layered under something metallic. "Where are you?" "At the back." The basement stretched longer than it should have. Storage shelves, water heater, workbench, then shadow. The back wall had always been bare cinder block. Now there was a doorway, no trim, no door. Just a tall, dark rectangle cut into the wall, like someone had erased part of the house. Eric stood in front of it, facing in. "What are you doing?" I whispered. He didn't turn. "Come look." I stayed on the stairs. "Turn around first." He shook his head. "You won't like it from here." I took another step down. The air shifted, warmer near the doorway, like breath. "What's inside?" Eric hesitated. "Another basement." I stared at him. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." The light behind him flickered. For a second, his shadow stretched forward, into the doorway, longer than his body. Then the shadow moved, but Eric didn't. "Eric," I said slowly, "step away from it." "I can't." "Why?" "It keeps moving farther back." I leaned over the railing. "What keeps moving?" The pause was too long. "The floor." Something whispered from inside the doorway. Not loud, not a word. Just the sound of air passing over a mouth that didn't quite remember how to shape speech. Eric swallowed. "It knows my name." I backed up one step. The basement stairs creaked. From inside the doorway, a second voice answered. Mine, soft, calling him closer, and behind him, where the cinder block wall should have been, the darkness widened, like it was making room. Story 10. My wife kept setting the table for someone else. It started with an extra plate, not dramatic, just wrong. We were eating late, leftovers microwaved in mismatched containers, the TV murmuring in the background while rain tapped softly at the windows. My wife set down 2 plates across from each other like always, then paused, went back to the cupboard, pulled out a third. "You expecting someone?" I asked. She frowned at it like she didn't remember grabbing it. "No." She set it down anyway, in the empty chair. I watched her. She went back to the counter, scooped pasta into bowls. 3 bowls. I didn't say anything. Not at first. We sat. Steam curled up from our food. The third plate sat untouched. The chair across from me was empty. "Did you..." I started. My wife cut me off. "Eat before it gets cold." I stared at her. "You made 3. She blinked, looked down. "Oh." She laughed weakly and picked it up. Halfway back to the sink, she stopped, stared at the plate again. "No." She turned around, put it back in the same spot. "Why did you do that?" Her brows knit together. "I don't know." I pushed my chair back slightly. "You okay?" She nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just tired." We ate in silence. I tried not to look at the empty chair. Every time I did, it felt closer. Halfway through dinner, my wife stood again, went to the drawer, pulled out another fork, set it next to the third plate. Clink, careful, precise. "You didn't need to do that," I said. She didn't answer. She'd gone back to the cupboard. This time she took out a glass, then another, set both near the empty place. "Why 2? She blinked. "I don't know." The rain outside stopped. The house settled. The third chair creaked, not from anyone sitting, just the sound old chairs make when weight almost touches them. I whispered, "Stop." She froze. "What?" Setting the table. She looked down at her hands. They were already reaching for another plate. Slow, careful, like she was arranging something she couldn't see. She whispered, "I think." "What?" "I think they're late." My stomach tightened. "Who?" She stared at the empty chair. The people that live here." I didn't breathe. We'd lived there 5 years. I asked quietly, "How many?" She counted on her fingers. 4. But there were only 2 of us in the kitchen. The third chair creaked again. This time, it slid an inch closer to the table. On its own. Story 11. My son heard knocking under the floor. We were watching a movie when he said it. Nothing scary on screen. Some bright animated thing with talking animals and a soundtrack that never shut up. The living room lights were low, the house quiet except for dialogue and the faint hum of the heater. My son sat cross-legged on the rug, leaning against the couch. Halfway through a joke, he tilted his head. Dad? Yeah. There's someone under us. I didn't look away from the TV. Probably the pipes. They don't knock. What? He tapped the carpet. 3 slow thumps. Thud, thud, thud. Like that. I muted the TV. Silence rushed in. We waited. Nothing. You hear it. Now? I asked. He shook his head. Then, thud, directly beneath us. My stomach tightened. Again, he whispered. Thud, slower this time, closer. I stood and pressed my foot into the rug. Concrete basement under that, no crawl space. Probably water heater. He frowned. Why is it answering me? I didn't. Thud, thud, 2 knocks, different rhythm. I crouched beside him. Stop tapping. I didn't. Another knock, directly beneath where he'd been sitting. My pulse picked up. Go sit on the couch. He didn't argue. As soon as he stood, thud, moved, followed him. My mouth went dry. We both stared at the rug. What do they want? He whispered. I shook my head. The knocking came again, slower, intentional, like someone thinking. Then, from under the floor, came a muffled voice, too deep, wrongly stretched, calling his name. Story 12. My friend wouldn't stop walking toward the campfire. Wex hadn't lit the fire ourselves. That was the first thing I was sure of. When we'd left camp earlier to grab more wood, the pit had been cold, gray ash, half-burnt logs, a ring of stones darkened by old use. We'd joked about starting it later once the temperature dropped. Now, coming back through the trees with arms full of branches, we saw orange light flickering between trunks, real flame, crackling, warmth bleeding into the cool evening air. That's weird, Sarah muttered beside me. Did someone else come through? No cars, Josh said, roads miles back. The forest around us was dimming fast, sky bruising purple through the canopy. Birds had gone quiet. Even the insects seemed to have taken a break, leaving the woods heavy with that hollow twilight silence. The fire sat in the pit exactly where we'd left it. Neat, too neat. 3 logs arranged in a triangle, flames licking upward in slow, lazy tongues that didn't snap or spark the way campfires usually do. The light it threw was steady, golden, like it belonged in a photograph. Mark, my best friend since college, shifted the bundle of sticks in his arms. Okay, who did this? No one answered. Our tents stood exactly where we'd pitched them, zipped shut, shadows pooling around their bases. The cooler hadn't been touched. The folding chairs were still scattered where we'd left them earlier, but the fire burned like it had been going for hours. Mark stepped closer. Maybe some hikers passed through. They would have left tracks, Sarah said, nodding at the soft dirt around the pit. We all looked. The ground was smooth, no footprints, no tire marks, nothing but pine needles and dust, undisturbed. Mark dropped his wood. The branches landed too quietly. I'm gonna poke it. Josh frowned. Why? Because it's weird. He grabbed the fire poker from beside the pit, the same stick he'd been using all day, and leaned in. The flames bent toward him, not blown, bent, like something leaning to listen. Sarah whispered, "Do you see that?" Mark laughed once, sharp. "Wind!" There was no wind. The leaves above us didn't move. He nudged one of the logs. It shifted easily. Too easily. Like it wasn't heavy. Like it was hollow. "Guys," he said slowly. "This doesn't feel..." The fire popped. A single loud crack. Mark flinched. The flame surged brighter for half a second, then settled. His face went slack, not relaxed, empty. Mark took a step closer. "Hey," I said, "back up." He didn't. Another step. "Mark." Josh grabbed his sleeve. Mark shrugged him off without looking. "I think it's warmer than before." "You weren't here before." Sarah snapped. Mark tilted his head toward the flames, eyes reflecting orange light. "It feels like it knows me." I moved toward him. The heat coming off the pit was intense now, rolling over my face in thick waves that smelled wrong, not just smoke and sap, but something sweet underneath, like burning sugar or hair. "Mark, stop!" He lifted one foot, hovered it near the stone ring. Sarah grabbed his other arm. He pulled free, easily, way too easily. "I just want to stand closer." Josh swore. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Mark smiled faintly, not at us, at the fire. The flames bent again, higher, reaching. The shadows behind him stretched long across the dirt, thin and spindly, pointing back toward the woods, not away from the fire, toward it. I grabbed his jacket collar and yanked. He stumbled, blinking. "What?" The flames dipped, lowered. Mark swayed on his feet. "Why did you do that?" Sarah's voice shook. "You were stepping into it." He looked down, at the stones, at the fire licking just inches from where his boot had been. "Oh." He laughed weakly. "Guess I zoned out." The fire popped again, louder, closer. Mark's smile faded. "Did I?" Behind him, the forest creaked, not branches, footsteps, slow, careful, circling the light, and the flames leaned toward all of us now. We were 13. My daughter wouldn't blink during hide and seek. It was supposed to be a quick game, 10 minutes before bed. One last round while my wife finished brushing her teeth and I cleaned up the living room. The house was quiet in that soft nighttime way. Dishwasher humming, hallway light glowing low, curtains drawn tight against the dark. My daughter tagged the couch and laughed. "I'm hiding first." "Count slow," I told her. She grinned and ran down the hall. I turned toward the corner, put my hands over my eyes, and counted loud enough for her to hear. 1, 2, 3. Her footsteps faded. Closet door, bedroom, bathroom, I couldn't tell. 8, 9, 10. I turned. The hallway was empty. "Ready or not," I called. "Here, I come." The house felt different once I started walking. Not colder, not darker, just quieter. The dishwasher clicked off. The hum stopped. Even the air sounded muted. I checked behind the couch. Nothing. Behind the curtains. Nothing. I smiled. Good hiding. No giggle answered. I walked toward her room. Door open, light off, bed untouched, closet closed, bathroom door halfway shut. I pushed it open, empty. The mirror fog-free, sink dry. My stomach tightened. "Honey?" No answer. I went back into the hallway and stopped. She stood at the far end, right in front of my bedroom door, facing me, completely still. "There you are," I said, relieved. "You win." She didn't smile. She didn't move. She just stared. "Sweetheart?" I took a step closer. Her eyes didn't shift, didn't blink, didn't track me. They stayed fixed on something just above my shoulder. "What are you looking at?" Nothing. No response. I crouched. Game's over, she whispered. Don't turn around. My skin prickled. Why? Because it's learning how you stand. I swallowed. What is? She blinked once, slow, wet, then added quietly, it doesn't need me anymore. Behind me, the floor creaked. Not footsteps, adjustment, like weight settling, and my bedroom door, which had been closed, clicked, unlocked. Story 14. My friend swam too far out. The lake was bigger than it had looked from shore. That was the first thing I noticed once we were in it. From the dock, it had seemed like a neat oval tucked into trees, water dark but calm, ringed with reeds and a thin strip of rocky beach. Once you started swimming, though, the opposite shore felt farther away than it should have, the tree line pulling back instead of closer. Race you to the buoy, Kara called. She kicked off before anyone could answer, cutting a white wake through the black water. Hey, I started. Too late. She was already halfway there. The buoy bobbed far out, a faded orange ball tied to something below the surface. It swayed gently in the water that otherwise didn't move much at all. I swam slower. Something about the depth under me felt heavy, like there was too much water. Kara reached the buoy and grabbed it, laughing. Cold as hell. She rested her arms over it, kicking lazily. Okay, come back, I said, in a sec. She stared down between her arms. Do you see that? See what? The rope. I squinted. The rope disappeared into the dark. That's normal. It keeps going. Yeah, it's tied to a weight. No, she said slowly. I mean, it's moving. My stomach tightened. Kara! The buoy drifted sideways. She drifted with it, not carried by waves, pulled. She let go. The buoy stayed. She didn't. The water tugged her another foot. She frowned and started swimming. Back, stopped. That's weird. What? It feels like mud. You're in water. She shook her head. No, like something thick, like syrup. I started swimming faster. She paddled harder, didn't gain ground. Her strokes made almost no splash. Kara, stop messing around. I'm not! She twisted in place. The water behind her dimpled just once, then smoothed out again. My heart thudded. Kick harder. I am. She tried again. Her legs jerked. Her body tilted. She gasped. Something touched me. I surged forward. Probably weeds. There aren't weeds out here. The buoy jerked. Hard. Water splashed for the first time. The rope went taut. Something passed beneath her. A wide shadow sliding through the dark. Kara! I shouted. She screamed, not loud, panicked, short. It grabbed my ankle. I reached out, missed. The water around her swirled, slow, controlled, not thrashing. Her body dipped, then popped back up. She sobbed. I can't see it. I grabbed her wrist, pulled. The resistance wasn't violent, it was steady, like pulling against someone who wasn't tired yet. My shoulder burned. Kara, kick! I am. The water bulged again. Another shadow moved, bigger, closer. I yanked harder. Her fingers slipped in my grip. I re-grabbed. The lake sucked at her waist. Her face went pale. It's standing, she whispered. What? On the bottom. My blood went cold. Story 15. My brother wouldn't step out of the elevator. We weren't even that high. 6th floor. A cheap downtown hotel with carpet that smelled like lemon cleaner and old smoke. The kind of place you stay when you're only in town for a night and don't care what the lobby looks like. The elevator had taken too long to get to us. That was the first thing my brother commented on. Stuck? He asked, tapping the call button again. The hush door slid open with a tired ding. Inside looked normal. Mirrors on 3 sides, brass rail, faded patterned carpet. We stepped in. He didn't. "Come on," I said. He leaned in, peering at the ceiling. "Hear that?" I listened. The doors stayed open. I didn't hear anything. "What?" "Breathing." I frowned. "It's the AC." He shook his head. "It's counting." The doors began to slide closed. He stuck his foot in. They reopened. "You getting in or what?" He took 1 step inside, then stopped. 1 foot in the hallway, 1 foot on the elevator carpet, frozen. "What's wrong?" He stared at the floor. "It's moving." The elevator wasn't moving. The arrow above the door stayed dark. The numbers didn't change. "What do you mean?" "The carpet," he whispered. "It's tilting." I looked down. It looked flat, patterned, ugly. Feels like I'm stepping downhill. I shifted my weight. Nothing. "Come on." He shook his head slowly. "I don't think it goes where it says." My stomach tightened. "That's ridiculous." He didn't laugh. The doors tried to close again, stopped at his leg, opened. The inside of the elevator hummed louder, not mechanical, throaty. "I think it's already going," he said. "Going where?" He swallowed. "Down." Behind us, the hallway lights flickered. The mirror inside the elevator reflected me, reflected him. But the reflection behind him didn't match his stance. It leaned farther forward, like gravity worked differently in there. I grabbed his arm. "Step back." He didn't. His shoe slid an inch across the carpet, not dragged, pulled. He whispered, "I didn't move." The floor indicator blinked, then 5, then 6 again. The doors tried to close, harder this time. Story 16. My daughter said the playground was too full. We stopped because she asked. That almost never happened. Usually it was 5 more minutes, or "Can we get ice cream?" or "I'm not tired yet." This time it was quiet and careful, the kind of request that makes you look in the mirror instead of answering right away. "Dad?" "Yeah." "Can we not go to that one?" I slowed the car. The park sat beside the road in a shallow dip between rows of houses. Chain link fence, faded slide, 2 swings creaking in the breeze. A streetlight buzzed above it, washing everything in orange. It looked empty. "Why not?" I asked. She leaned forward in her booster seat, squinting through the windshield. "It's busy." I frowned. "I don't see anyone." She hesitated. "That's because they're being good." My hand tightened on the wheel. Being good, how? Standing where they're supposed to. I pulled into the gravel lot anyway. The tires crunched too loud in the quiet neighborhood. My daughter didn't unbuckle. She just stared at the jungle gym. "See?" she whispered. I got out and walked a few steps closer, scanning the shadows under the slide, the platform, the little plastic tunnel. Nothing. Wind rattled the chains on the swings. The sandbox lay smooth and untouched. I looked back at her. "Come on." She shook her head. "They're on the climbing bars." "There's nobody there." She pressed her palms against the window. "Yes, there is." I walked closer to the fence, closer to the jungle gym. Still nothing. But as I stepped into the pool of light beneath the street lamp, the air changed, not colder, thicker, like humidity before a storm. "Dad," she said sharply. "Stop." I froze. "What?" "They're counting you." My stomach dropped. I forced a laugh. "Counting what?" "How many places you could fit." I turned slowly, scanning the bars. Metal rungs, empty, paint chipped, except the shadows didn't match. Too many lines crossed the rubber ground, beneath the structure, like there were bodies blocking the light. I took another step back. The shadows stayed. My daughter whispered, "One just moved." "Which one?" "The one that's going to take the slide." The swing creaked, not from wind, from weight. The chain dipped, then rose again. I backed away from the fence. My daughter exhaled. "They don't like when adults come." I opened her door fast. "Okay, we're leaving." She didn't move. "They said you're too big." My throat went dry. "Who?" She blinked up at me. "The kids that forgot to go home." Behind me, metal clinked. A ladder rung shifted, slow, careful, like something invisible adjusting its grip. I picked her up without closing the door, carried her back to the driver's seat, strapped her in, shaking. The swing behind us started moving on its own. Long, smooth arcs, back and forth, back and forth. I slammed the door, got in, and peeled out of the lot. In the mirror, the playground shrank. The swing kept moving, and for half a second, I thought I saw small shapes hanging from the climbing bars, perfectly still, waiting for the light to go out. Story 17. My friend wouldn't come back from the bathroom at the party. It wasn't even a big party, just one of those late 20s house gatherings. Too much beer, music low enough that people could still talk, someone grilling even though it was past midnight. The kind of night where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. We'd taken over my friend Aaron's place while his parents were out of town. 2 stories, finished basement, long hallway upstairs with guest rooms no one ever used. Milo went to the bathroom about 20 minutes after we arrived. That alone wasn't weird. What was weird was how long he stayed gone. I noticed because I needed to go too, and because someone had cued the same song 3 times in a row without realizing it, which only happens when a party starts thinning out. "Anyone seen Milo?" I asked. A couple people shrugged. "He went upstairs," someone said. I checked the hallway, empty. Music thumped softly from the living room behind me. Laughter drifted from the kitchen. The upstairs felt sealed off from it, like sound didn't want to climb the stairs. I went up. The carpet runner muted my steps. All the doors were closed except the bathroom at the end. Light glowing under the frame. "Milo?" I called. No answer. I knocked. Nothing. "Milo, hurry up." The light stayed on. I reached for the handle. Locked. "Seriously, dude?" Still nothing. I leaned closer. The fan was running. That soft white noise bathrooms make. Water dripping slowly in the sink. Drip, drip, drip. "Milo." Silence. Then, his voice, from the other side of the door. "I think something's wrong." My stomach tightened. "What?" "I can't see myself." I laughed once, reflexively. "In the mirror?" "Yes." "That's not, I mean at all." I froze. "What do you mean?" "The mirror. It's empty." I swallowed. "Milo, open the door." "I tried." "What do you mean you tried?" "It won't unlock from this side." The doorknob twitched under my hand. I jumped back. "Milo." "It's turning on its own." I stared at the brass handle. It wasn't moving now. "I didn't touch it," he whispered. "Move away from the door." "I can't." My pulse spiked. "Why?" "Because something else is standing where I should be." Cold slid down my spine. "What?" His breathing got louder, shaky. "There's someone in the mirror." "Describe them." A pause. "They're doing what I'm doing." The handle turned slowly. From the inside, stopped. Then, someone knocked. From inside the door. 3 slow taps, right where my face had been. Behind me, footsteps came up the stairs. "Yo, what's taking so long?" someone called. I didn't look back. The bathroom light went out. Milo screamed. Then, nothing. No fan, no dripping, no breathing, just the lock clicking open. The door swung inward. The bathroom was empty, mirror clean, sink dry, window closed, Milo gone, and on the fog-free glass, fresh fingerprints slid downward. From the inside, Story 18, my son wouldn't let me close the door. It was raining, hard enough that the gutters overflowed, water rattling against the windows in steady sheets that blurred the porch light into a glowing smear. Thunder muttered somewhere far off, not close enough to scare, just enough to make the house feel smaller. My son stood in the doorway, not going out, not coming in. One hand gripping the frame, the other braced against the door itself. "Buddy," I said gently, "we gotta shut that. You're letting the rain in." He shook his head. Water dripped from his hair onto the hardwood. "It's okay." "No, it's not." I reached for the door. He pushed back, not hard, just firm. Enough that the door didn't move. "What are you doing?" He stared past me, toward the living room. "I'm making space." "For what?" He didn't answer. Thunder rolled closer this time. The porch light flickered. I tried again. "Come inside and dry off." He tightened his grip. "It can't come in if I'm here." My stomach tightened. What can't? He finally looked at me, eyes wide, serious. "The rain? That doesn't make any sense." He shook his head. "It walks in the rain." Lightning flashed. For a split second, the yard lit up bright as day. The driveway was empty. The trees bent in the wind. The porch was empty. When the light faded, my son flinched. "Don't look." "Look at what?" "It changes when you blink." My pulse thudded. I knelt in front of him, keeping my voice calm. "Who told you that?" "The knocking." My breath caught. "What knocking?" He glanced up at the doorframe. "Up here." I followed his gaze. Fresh, wet prints dotted the top edge of the white trim, finger-shaped, dripping onto the floor. Tap, 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 from above us. Story 19. My friend wouldn't stop counting the seats. It was supposed to be a quick bus ride, downtown to campus, 15 minutes tops. Late evening, rain streaking the windows so everything outside blurred into orange streetlights and neon signs smeared into reflections. The bus was nearly empty, a couple in the back whispering over shared earbuds, an older guy asleep against the window, one woman scrolling on her phone near the front, and us, me and Nate, slouched across two plastic seats halfway down. Nate kept leaning into the aisle. I thought he was stretching at first, then he leaned again and again. "Dude," I muttered. "You..." "Okay." He didn't answer. His lips were moving. I glanced over. He was counting. Silent at first, just breath and tiny mouth movements. I nudged his knee with mine. "What?" He whispered. 7. 7 what? He frowned. "Seats." I looked around, rows of blue plastic, some empty, some taken. "What about them?" "There were 6, he said. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "When we sat down." "You didn't count." "I did." That made my stomach tighten. He leaned out again, eyes scanning left to right. 8. I frowned. "Stop." The bus hissed as it slowed for a stoplight. A new row of seats slid into view at the front. Not passengers, just seats. Empty, clean, like they'd always been there. But I was sure, absolutely sure, they hadn't. "Are they adding seats?" Nate whispered. "No." "They are." The bus lurched forward. Rain streaked harder across the windows. The couple in back laughed. The sleeping man didn't move. The woman near the front kept scrolling. No one else seemed to notice the extra row. Nate grabbed my sleeve. 9. I followed his gaze. The aisle felt longer, stretched, the front door farther away. How many are there supposed to be? I asked. He swallowed. However many people ride. That didn't make sense. Why? He pointed to the empty row closest to the front. There for later. For who? His mouth opened, closed. The ones that don't get off. The bus stopped. Doors hissed open. Nobody boarded. Nobody left. The driver didn't turn around. The doors shut again. Another row of seats slid into existence, right behind the driver. I felt cold. Nate whispered, 10. I stood up. The aisle dipped. Not slope. Dip. Like stepping into soft ground. The seats creaked. Not from weight. From readiness. Nate, we're getting off. He didn't move. I don't think I can. Why? He stared at the newest row. They picked spots. The bus lights dimmed slightly, just a touch. Outside, rain blurred the city into streaks. Inside, the empty seats gleamed, waiting. The driver finally spoke, without turning around. Please remain seated until your stop. I hadn't told him ours. Nate squeezed my arm. I didn't tell it either. The bus slowed, even though there was no stop ahead, and one of the empty seats, just one, creaked, like someone invisible had leaned back to get comfortable. Story 20. My wife kept answering the wrong questions. It started with something small, so small I almost ignored it. We were lying in bed, lights off, rain tapping the window in lazy, irregular bursts. I was scrolling through my phone while she stared at the ceiling, hands folded over her stomach. You remember Sarah from work? I asked. She said, yes. Too fast. I blinked. I didn't ask anything yet. She turned her head toward me. You are going to? I frowned. Okay. Do you remember her? She nodded. Yes. That was fine. Normal. I went back to my phone. A minute passed. You hungry? I asked. She said, no. I hadn't finished the question. I stared at her. She kept looking at the ceiling. No what? No, I don't think they saw me. My throat tightened. Who? She blinked slowly. The people outside. I sat up. There's no one outside. She turned to me. You didn't ask that. Yes, I did. No. She smiled faintly, not comforting, but light, like she was talking to a stranger. You were going to ask if they saw me. I swallowed. Why would I ask that? She shrugged. They're loud when they breathe. The rain against the window sounded suddenly heavier, closer. I slid my feet onto the floor. What people? She hesitated. The ones that stand where the yard ends. I walked to the window, pulled the curtain back an inch. Dark yard, fence, trees, nothing else. They're not there. She nodded. That's what I said. You said they didn't see you. She smiled again. Same thing. Lightning flashed. For half a second the yard lit up white. The trees stood frozen. The fence gleamed wet. And near the back, a shape, tall, too thin, gone when the darkness rushed back. I froze. Behind me she said, softly, they're closer now. Story 1. The night would not finish. The argument wasn't loud. That was the first strange thing about it. You and your wife had learned over the years how to fight quietly in front of your daughter. Voices kept low, sentences trimmed short, anger folded neatly into politeness until it could be unpacked later. Tonight's version of that skill had become so automatic you barely notice yourselves doing it. I just think we missed the turn, your wife said from the passenger seat, eyes fixed on the road ahead. You tightened your grip on the steering wheel. I didn't see a turn. You weren't looking at the signs. I was. Your daughter sat in the back seat, kicking her heels softly against her booster, humming to herself in that wandering, tuneless way she did when she was tired, but refusing to admit it. The hum faded in and out, sometimes drifting into a song you recognized, sometimes becoming something entirely new. The road stretched forward under, your headlights wet and reflective, though it hadn't rained all evening. Tall trees crowded close on either side, their trunks pale as bones, branches arching overhead until they nearly touched above the car, knitting the sky into a narrow tunnel of stars. You didn't remember this stretch of road. That thought arrived fully formed, heavy in your stomach. The GPS screen glowed on the dashboard, its map stubbornly blank except for a blue dot drifting along a gray nothingness. "No service," your wife murmured. You nodded, though she hadn't asked a question. The radio crackled once, then went silent. Not static. Silence. Your daughter leaned forward between the seats. "Daddy?" "Yeah, kiddo." "Why is it still night?" You frowned. "What do you mean?" She pointed up through the windshield. "We've been driving a long time. Shouldn't it be morning?" You opened your mouth to answer, closed it again. The clock on the dash read 11:47 p.m. You were certain it had said that 20 minutes ago. The hum from the tires changed pitch as the asphalt narrowed, the yellow center line fading until it looked less painted and more remembered, a ghost of a line that had been there once and been worn down by years of passing wheels. Your wife shifted in her seat. "Slow down." "I'm slowing down." The trees didn't seem to move faster or slower anymore. They simply stood there, watching the car slip through their ribs. Then the road curved, a gentle bend to the right. You had no memory of it. When you followed it, the forest opened into a clearing. A house waited there, 2 stories, pale siding, porch running the width of the front, boards clean and dry despite the damp earth around them. No driveway, no mailbox, no fence. One upstairs window glowed with warm yellow light. Your foot eased off the gas. You hadn't told it to. The car slowed anyway. Your wife whispered, "That wasn't there before." You didn't answer because you didn't trust your voice. The engine ticked as it cooled. Your daughter pressed her face to the glass. "Is that our house?" "No," you said too quickly. The fog hugged the grass at the edges of the clearing, stopping just short of the porch, like something had drawn a line it refused to cross. You sat there for a moment too long. Then the porch light flicked on. Story 2. The porch light counted them. The light did not flicker. It didn't stutter the way old bulbs do when they're dying. It simply brightened, a smooth, deliberate bloom of warm yellow that washed across the porch boards and railing like a stage being set. Your wife inhaled sharply. "Did you see that?" "Yes." You hadn't meant to answer so fast. Your daughter craned her neck in the back seat. "It's pretty." "That doesn't mean anything," your wife said, more to herself than to either of you. You stared at the house. The upstairs window remained literal. The porch light cast long shadows across the lawn, shadows that reached toward the tree line and stopped, neat and trimmed, as though someone had decided exactly how far darkness was allowed to go. You checked the mirrors. The road behind you looked wrong, not gone, just thin, like a memory that had been folded too many times. "Let's keep driving," your wife said. You put the car in gear, pressed the accelerator. Nothing happened. The engine revved politely. The headlights stayed fixed on the porch. Your daughter asked, "Why aren't we moving?" You tried again. The car shuddered slightly, as if it had rolled over something soft. The dashboard lights blinked. The GPS screen went black. You turned the key. The engine died. Silence rushed in to fill the space it left, thick and padded. Your wife whispered, "Okay, that's not normal." "No," you said. You reached for your phone. No signal, no bars, not even a little empty triangle. Just a blank grid where reception usually lived. In the back seat, your daughter swung her legs gently. "Are we camping?" "No," your wife and you said at the same time. Fog crept closer to the edge of the porch, curling around the steps but never climbing them. Like the house wore some invisible fence the rest of the night obeyed. You opened your door. Cold air poured in, sharp and damp, carrying the smell of wet leaves and metal and something faintly sweet underneath. Laundry soap, maybe, or wood polish. The porch boards didn't creak when you stepped onto them. They shifted, adjusted, the sound of wood settling around, weight it had been expecting. You turned back to your family. "Stay here." Your wife shook her head immediately. "No." She unbuckled your daughter before you could argue. The three of you stood at the bottom of the steps, the porch looming above like a shallow stage. Up close, the railing was freshly painted, no chips, no peeling. The ducker was white, spotless, handle polished to a dull shine. You reached for it. Stopped. The knob was warm. Your wife whispered, "That's not right." You knocked, once, twice. The sound was soft, swallowed by the house before it could echo. The porch light brightened a fraction, and from somewhere inside, deep in the walls, came a quiet sound. Wood shifting, slow and heavy like the house rolling over in its sleep. Story 3. My daughter wouldn't leave the steps. You didn't knock again. You told yourself you wouldn't knock again. Something about the way the sound had disappeared into the house, too soft, too final, made your skin crawl. It felt like the house had accepted the knock instead of answering it, like a box being checked. You turned toward your wife. She was watching your daughter. Your daughter had climbed the first porch step without saying anything. One foot on the wood, the other still in the grass, frozen halfway, like she was listening for something only she could hear. "Sweetheart," your wife said gently, the way she spoke when she didn't want to scare her. "Come back down." Your daughter didn't move. The porch boards under her sneaker warmed. You could see it in the way she relaxed, just a little, shoulders dropping, toes uncurling inside her shoe. "Daddy," she said, still facing the door. "It's warm." You stepped forward and took her hand. The warmth bled into your palm, not heat, comfort, like sun through a window in winter. You pulled her back. The board cooled immediately. She frowned. "Why did you do that?" Your wife stared at the porch. I didn't feel that." You hadn't either, not until you touched her. You lifted your daughter into your arms. She protested weakly, then stopped, resting her head on your shoulder, like she suddenly remembered how tired she was. The porch light pulsed, once, like a heartbeat. Your wife whispered, "It's reacting to her." The front door handle turned, just a fraction. No sound, no click, just the smallest movement, metal shifting under invisible fingers. You backed away instinctively. The handle returned to center. The door did not open. Your daughter sighed, a long, soft sound, too relaxed for the moment. "Mommy," she murmured, eyes half-lidded. "Can we go inside? It smells clean." Your wife stiffened. "Smells like what?" "Like my blanket." "You smelled it too." cotton and detergent and something faintly sweet drifting through the doorframe, a bedtime smell. You didn't answer. Behind you, the fog crept closer, not toward the house, toward you. Story 4. My wife heard someone using her name. The fog didn't rush. It never rushed. It slid across the grass in slow sheets, curling around the tires, brushing your ankles with damp cold, retreating when you shifted your weight as though it was testing the space you occupied. Your wife whispered, "We need to go, right now." You nodded, you turned toward the car, and froze. The headlights were still on, but they didn't reach the trees anymore. The beams ended in a soft white wall only a few yards out, light dissolving into thickness like snow caught mid-fall. Your wife said your name, quietly, too quietly. You turned to her. She was looking past you, at the porch. "No," she whispered. You followed her gaze. Someone was standing just inside the front door, not fully visible, only a pale shape behind the glass, blurred like a reflection that hadn't decided what it was reflecting yet. Your daughter squirmed in your arms. "Dad, someone's inside." Before you could answer, a voice came through the door. Your wife's voice, soft, normal, concerned. "Did you forget something?" Your wife went rigid. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. The voice repeated it, closer to the door this time. "Did you forget something, love?" Your daughter whimpered. You said, loud, "Who's in there?" Silence. Then the handle twitched. The porch boards warmed under your shoes. Your wife whispered, "That's not me." The fog slid closer into the car. Story 5. My daughter followed the light. The upstairs window brightened, not flickering, not turning on, brightening, like a dimmer switch being rolled upward. Your daughter lifted her head. "Why is that one happy?" "What?" your wife asked. "The light," she said, pointing. "It's smiling." You followed her finger. It wasn't smiling, it was just warm. But something about the way it glowed felt intentional, like it had chosen a temperature meant for children in bedtime stories. The porch light dimmed. The upstairs window became the brightest thing in the clearing. Your daughter leaned forward in her arms. You tightened your hold. She wriggled anyway, drawn toward the steps with surprising strength. "It's my room," she murmured. Your wife snapped, "No, it isn't." Your daughter frowned. "It feels like it is." The fog paused at the bottom step, didn't climb, didn't retreat, waited. The upstairs window pulsed once, a slow blink. Your daughter whispered, "It wants me to come look." You felt anger spike through the fear. "Who is it?" She shrugged. "The house." Story 6. My wife touched the door first. You didn't want anyone near the door. You especially didn't want your wife near it. She stepped forward anyway, slow, careful, palms open like she was approaching a strange animal. "Hello?" she called. Her voice sounded too loud in the clearing. The house absorbed it. No echo, no answer. She reached for the knob. You said her name sharply. She hesitated. The knob rotated under her fingers before she touched it. She jerked her hand back. The door creaked open an inch. Warm air spilled out. Laundry soap, wood, polish, dinner. Your daughter inhaled deeply. "That smells good," your wife whispered. "I didn't touch it." The porch light dimmed. The interior light grew warmer. The house was inviting, and behind you, the fog began climbing the steps. Story 7. My daughter asked who lived here. The fog climbed the steps the way water does when it knows gravity will win. Not rushing, not splashing, just inch by inch, curling over the porch boards, pooling around the legs of the railing. pressing soft gray fingers against the white paint as if checking its temperature. Your daughter watched it with the careful fascination she usually reserved for bugs or strange clouds. "Daddy?" she whispered. "Why is the fog coming up now?" You didn't answer, because you didn't like the way the fog had waited until the door cracked open before moving. You didn't like the way the house had stayed dry and warm while the night crept closer. Your wife kept one hand behind her back, like she was resisting the urge to grab your sleeve. "Close it," she murmured. The door didn't open any farther. It didn't close either. It stayed exactly where it was, an inch-wide invitation. Warm air slid across your face, smelling like fabric softener and cooked vegetables and something faintly sweet beneath it all. The kind of smell that usually meant home after a long day. Your daughter inhaled again, deeper this time. "That's soup," she said. Your wife stiffened. "How do you know?" "It smells like when you make soup when I'm sick." You exchanged a look. You hadn't made soup like that in years. Your wife whispered, "Who lives here?" The house answered her, not with words, with sound. Something inside shifted, wood sliding against wood, not settling, but moving with purpose. A footstep, maybe, or the idea of one. The kind of sound that makes you tilt your head because your brain is trying to decide whether it's safe. Your daughter leaned forward in your arms. You tightened your grip. She didn't fight. She simply stared to the thin, dark gap between door and frame. "Someone little," she said. Your chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "Someone my size." The fog touched the toe of your shoe. Cold. So cold it burned. The porch board stayed warm. The house was drawing a line. Story 8. My wife swore. She'd heard me inside. Your wife grabbed your arm. "Don't move." You froze. "What?" She nodded toward the doorway. "I heard you." You stared at her. I didn't say anything. She shook her head slowly. "From inside, you said my name." Your stomach dropped. "No. I swear, you sounded tired." The gap in the door widened a hair. The warmth thickened. The smell of dinner sharpened. Your daughter whispered, "Daddy's hungry." You said, "No, I'm not." She blinked at you, confused, but you said you were. Your wife whispered, "I didn't hear that." I didn't say that either. The fog crept another inch higher. Behind you, the woods stayed perfectly still. No insects, no wind, no owl calls. Just trees standing in formation like they'd been told to wait. From inside the house, a voice spoke. Yours, soft, calm. "We can come in now." Your wife let out a sound halfway between a gasp and a sob. Your daughter smiled faintly. "That's you." "No," you said. "That isn't." The voice tried again, warmer. "Come on, it's cold out there." The porch boards warmed under your feet. The fog lapped at your heels. Story 9. My daughter let go of my hand. You don't remember loosening your grip. You only remember realizing it was loose. Your daughter slid down out of your arms, landing lightly on the porch boards. She didn't run. She didn't rush. She took one step toward the door. "Sweetheart," your wife said sharply. Your daughter paused, looked back. Her eyes were heavy, glossy with tiredness, the way they got when she'd stayed up too late. "But he's inside," she said. Your wife shook her head violently. "No, he isn't." She pointed. The gap in the door widened another inch. Something pale waited behind the glass. And not a face. Not yet. Just the suggestion of a shape. Your daughter took another step. The fog surged behind you, curling around the tires, brushing your calves. You lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. The porch boards under her sneaker glowed faintly warm. The fog recoiled. Your daughter frowned at you. "You're hurting the house." "I don't care," you said. She blinked, confused, then frightened. Your wife rushed forward and scooped her up again, clutching her too tight, rocking slightly without realizing it. The voice inside went quiet. The warmth dimmed. For a moment, everything held still. Then, the upstairs window brightened, not the porch, not the hall, the one above you. Your daughter buried her face in your wife's shoulder. "It's mad," she whispered. The house shifted, not angry, patient, like something that had learned that you don't scold children. You wait. Story 10. My wife. Noticed the road was gone. You backed away from the porch, slow and careful, eyes never leaving the door. The fog parted behind you. You turned. The clearing ended where the road should have been. Trees stood shoulder to shoulder, trunks pale and close, branches woven so tightly together that no space remained for asphalt, gravel, or tire tracks. Your car sat on grass, not dirt. Grass, no ruts, no sign it had driven in. Your wife whispered, "Where's the road?" You walked around the car. The forest continued in every direction. You checked behind the trunk. Nothing, no curve, no opening, no exit. Your daughter sniffled. "I want to go home." Your wife hugged her closer. "I know, baby." You opened the driver's door. The interior light flicked on. The dashboard clock still read 11:47 p.m. Hadn't moved. Your phone vibrated in your pocket. Hope surged. You pulled it out. No signal. But a new notification glowed on the screen. "Welcome back. You didn't remember being here before." But the house across the clearing. Its upstairs window blinked once, like it was glad you'd remembered. Story 11. My daughter asked why the house was breathing. You didn't answer the notification. You couldn't. You slid the phone back into your pocket like it might burn you. Eyes still locked on the glowing upstairs window. Behind you, the forest was too neat, not peaceful, arranged. Every trunk spaced with the same careful distance. Branches braided overhead like the ceiling of a cathedral built for animals that didn't move anymore. Your daughter shifted in your wife's arms. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "The house is breathing." You frowned. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head, listening, and then you heard it too. Not wind, not insects. A slow, deep sound traveling through wood and air like in, out. The porch boards creaked softly in time with it. The upstairs light pulsed with the rhythm. Your wife whispered, "That's not possible." The fog around the steps moved with the same timing, rising and settling like lines. The door eased open another inch. The smell of soup thickened. Your daughter pressed her ear against your wife's chest. "It's tired." You didn't like that she'd chosen that word. You moved closer to the car, hurting them with your body, keeping yourself between your family and the porch. The breathing didn't stop. It followed. Story 12. My wife found the curtains, moving. The upstairs window shifted, just a flicker of fabric. Your wife squinted. Did the curtain just... Yes. It slid back. Not enough to show anything inside. Enough to show someone could be there. You raised your voice. "Hello?" The word vanished into the clearing. No echo, no reply. The porch light dimmed. The upstairs window brightened. Your daughter murmured, "They're trading." "What?" "The lights," she said. "They take turns." You didn't like that she'd already started talking about the house like it was a group. Your wife whispered, Why would it have curtains if nobody's home? A shadow passed behind the fabric, tall, thin, wrong, then gone. Your wife gasped. Your daughter didn't react. She just sighed, like she'd expected it. Story 13. My daughter wanted to bring the car inside. Your daughter wiggled in your wife's arms until she could point. Daddy, we should put the car in the house. You stared at her. What? So it doesn't get cold. Your wife blinked. Cars don't get cold. They do here. The porch light brightened slightly as if in agreement. The fog curled lovingly around the tires. You glanced at the driveway that didn't exist. There's no garage. Your daughter frowned. There is. She pointed at the side of the house. You followed her finger. The siding rippled. A rectangle pressed outward from inside. Slowly, like something moving. Then, wood outlines formed. A door, wide, double. A garage door where there hadn't been one seconds ago. Your wife whispered, "It just made that." The garage door handle gleamed. Your phone buzzed again. You didn't want to look. You looked anyway. We can make room. Your daughter nodded, satisfied. I told you. Story 14. My wife counted the windows. Your wife grabbed your arm. How many windows did it have before? You hesitated. 2 downstairs, 1 upstairs lit, maybe 3 more in shadow. I don't know. She shook her head slowly. There are more now. You followed her gaze. Along the side wall, new dark rectangles had appeared between trees, windows that hadn't been there when you arrived, curtains drawn in some, glowing faintly in others. Too many. Your daughter whispered, "That's where they sleep." Who? She shrugged. The rooms. The fog slipped back from the porch steps, retreating toward the grass. The garage door creaked, not opening, testing. The house exhaled, slow, content, like it had finished building something just for you. Story 15. My daughter asked if she could go first. Your daughter leaned out of your wife's arms again. Can I go inside first? No, you and your wife said together. She pouted. It knows me. Your wife stiffened. What do you mean? Your daughter tilted her head toward the door. It says I won't be scared. Your wife whispered, "Stop talking to it." Your daughter frowned. I'm not talking, I'm listening. The upstairs curtain fluttered again. The porch boards roared, the fog crept back, and the house waited. Story 16. My partner wouldn't look at the body. The call came in just after midnight, the kind of hour when even seasoned cops start rubbing their eyes and hoping for something boring. Noise complaints, broken windows, drunk arguments that had already burned themselves out. This one wasn't boring. Possible homicide, dispatch said. Remote location, Forestry Road off Route 6. No signal reported by the caller. You glanced at your partner across the cruiser. Mark was sipping coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, staring through the windshield like he already knew the night was about to get worse. Remote, he muttered. That's never good. Rain had just started when you turned off the highway. Not a downpour, thin, whispering streaks that barely touched the dust on the road, but made the headlights smear the world into silver lines. Trees crowded close on both sides, tall and skeletal, branches knitting together overhead until the forest swallowed the sky. The radio crackled, then went quiet. You tapped it. Dispatch, repeat last. Nothing. Mark frowned. Dead zone? Looks like it. The forestry road narrowed into something that barely deserved to be called a road at all. Mud, gravel, weeds creeping in from both sides. The rain made the dirt shine black. Your tires left deep grooves that immediately began filling with water. Then you saw the lights, hazards blinking in the distance. A single car pulled crooked across the trail, door hanging open, interior light glowing weakly. You slowed. Mark set his coffee in the cup holder and adjusted his vest. You smell that? You rolled down your window, wet earth, pine sap, and something faintly coppery underneath. Blood. You parked behind the abandoned car and stepped out into the rain. It soaked through your jacket almost immediately, cold needles pricking at your neck. Your boots sank into mud with quiet sucking sounds. The forest was too still. No insects, no frogs, no wind in the leaves. Mark clicked his flashlight on. The beam cut a narrow white tunnel through the trees. The car was empty, driver's door open, keys still in the ignition. On the hood, smeared in muddy handprints, was a dark streak that rain hadn't quite washed away. Mark swallowed. That's fresh. You nodded. Then you saw the footprints, bare, leading off the road, into the trees. You followed them. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong. Too quiet, too isolated, too far from backup. But you moved anyway, flashlight sweeping over wet leaves and broken twigs. The footprints didn't stagger. They were neat, placed carefully, as though whoever made them had known exactly where to step. After about 50 yards, the beam caught something pale between two trunks. You slowed. Mark slowed behind you. Halt, you whispered. The light found a man lying on his back in a shallow dip in the ground, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, shirt soaked dark across the chest. His eyes were open, too open, staring at nothing. You crouched, checking for movement even though you already knew. Cold, no pulse, throat torn, not cut clean. Torn. Mark didn't come closer. You noticed because he always did. Every scene, every body. He complained, sure, but he never hesitated. Now he stood 10 feet back, flashlight shaking slightly in his hand. Mark, you said quietly, get eyes on the wound. He didn't. I can't. You looked up at him. Rain streaked down his face, mixing with sweat. What do you mean, you can't? He swallowed. It's not right. You frowned and turned back to the body scanning the ground. No drag marks, no weapon, no shell casings, no animal tracks. Just mud and footprints, bare footprints, all around the body, circling it. Too many for one person. They overlapped, pressed into the dirt in spirals, some deep, some shallow, different weights, different sizes, children, adults, bare feet, all of them. You stood slowly. Mark, how many people you see here? He didn't answer. You followed his gaze. He wasn't looking at the body. He was staring into the trees behind it. Your stomach tightened. What? He whispered, barely loud enough to hear over the rain. They're still here. You swung your flashlight. The beam cut across trunks, branches, darkness, then movement. Not fast, not hiding, just a shape shifting behind a tree, like someone leaning back, an inch too late. You raised your gun. Sheriff's office, show yourself. Nothing. The forest stayed silent. Mark whispered, they're barefoot. Your pulse thudded in your ears. Who is they? He shook his head slowly, eyes wide. I don't know. Then the radio on your shoulder crackled, not static, breathing, slow, wet, and from somewhere deeper in the car, woods, something answered it. A soft sound, like feet pressing into mud, coming closer. Story 17. My brother went into the lake. First, we weren't supposed to swim. That had been the rule all day. The lake looked calm, too calm, honestly. Its surface stretched flat and dark like polished stone, reflecting the pine trees around it so perfectly that the forest appeared doubled. The air was cooling fast, the sun already sinking behind the hills, turning the sky the color of bruised peaches and ash. Camping rulebook said don't go in after sunset. My brother Ethan never cared about rulebooks. He stood at the edge of the dock in his boots, rolling up his jeans, staring out across the water, with a grin that meant he'd already decided. "You're not doing that," I said. He glanced back at me over his shoulder. "Doing what?" "You know exactly what." Behind us, our friends were unpacking coolers and lanterns, arguing about who forgot the marshmallows. Laughter floated through the trees. Someone kicked gravel. Someone cracked open a drink. Normal sounds, safe sounds. Ethan toed off one boot and nudged it under the bench. "Relax. I just want to see how cold it is." "You can see that from here." He didn't answer. He stepped onto the dock barefoot. The boards creaked under his weight, damp from lake mist, darkened by decades of wet feet and algae. The smell down here was different from the campsite. Mud, rotten leaves, something mineral and metallic. Ethan leaned forward and squinted at the water. "Does it look thicker to you?" he asked. I frowned. "Thicker?" "Like oil," he said. "Not shiny, just heavy." I walked closer. The lake didn't ripple, not when a breeze passed, not when a bug skimmed the surface. It just sat there, holding the reflection of the sky without distortion. "You're psyching yourself out," I said. Ethan shrugged and jumped. The splash came late, too late. There should have been an immediate slap of water, a crash, ripples racing outward. Instead, plop, soft, contained, like he dropped into something dense. The surface closed over him without much fuss. I leaned forward. "Okay, funny, get out." No answer. 2 seconds passed. 3. Then his head broke the surface. Water slid off him strangely, clinging longer than it should, stretching in thin ropes from his hair and shoulders before snapping back into the lake. He blinked, coughed once. "Cold?" I called. He floated there without treading water, just buoyant. "I didn't hit bottom," he said. "That's because it's deep." "No," he replied slowly. "I mean, I kept going, and then I didn't. I didn't like that. You're freaking me out. Come back." He turned in the water, paused, frowned at the far end of the lake. Did someone else jump in? My stomach tightened. No. There was a splash. Behind us, laughter from camp continued. Someone had turned music on low. The lanterns flickered to life one by one. Ethan whispered, right behind me. The lake stayed smooth. No ripples, nothing. I crouched at the edge of the dock. "Ethan, get out, now." He started swimming back. Slowly, too slowly. Each stroke barely disturbed the surface, as if the water was swallowing his movements before they could register. Halfway to the dock, he stopped again. "Dude," I snapped. "Move." His eyes were wide, not panicked, confused. "There's something touching my leg." I stood. "Probably weeds." He shook his head. "No, it's warm." I felt cold. "You're imagining it." He looked down at the water. His expression shifted, subtle, like someone realizing they'd miscounted something. "It grabbed me." I dropped to my knees and reached out. The water near him darkened, not shadow. Movement beneath the surface, slow and wide, turning the reflection into a warped smear. "Ethan," I said, voice tight. "Don't move." He tried anyway. His body jerked, not violently, just checked, like someone tugging on his ankle from underwater. He let out a sharp breath. Okay, that's not funny. The lake stayed smooth. Whatever was beneath it didn't break the surface, didn't thrash, didn't hurry. It just held him. Our friends had finally noticed. Someone shouted his name. Lantern light spilled across the dock. The reflection fractured for the first time. Shapes moved where there shouldn't have been any. Long, thin, more than one. Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. It's standing. My blood went ice cold. Standing where? In the lake. He swallowed. On the bottom. And it's taller than me. Story 18. My friend shined the flashlight. Too far. Someone killed the music. The sudden silence made the lake feel louder even though nothing was moving. Mark, different Mark than my partner from the other story, my college roommate, came running down the path with a lantern in one hand and a flashlight in the other. He skidded to a stop at the end of the dock and raised the beam toward the water. Ethan? He shouted. Ethan didn't answer right away. He was staring down between his legs now, breathing shallowly, arms half spread in the water like he was afraid to kick. I can't feel the bottom, he said. I can't feel anything under me except... He stopped. Except something that feels like hands. I swore. Mark's flashlight cut across the surface, the beam stabbing into the dark water. For a second, it just reflected back at us, white glare flattening into nothing. Then the light sank, not bent, not diffused, sank, like the lake accepted it. Mark leaned forward. That's weird. The beam revealed murk, silt clouds drifting slow as smoke, but deeper than that, something else. Vertical lines, too straight to be weeds, too still to be fish. They faded in and out of view as the beam wobbled. Turn that off, Ethan whispered. Mark didn't. The light slid lower, caught something pale, long, jointed wrong. It wasn't a leg, it wasn't an arm. It was too smooth, too uniform, tapering like something grown rather than built. Mark sucked in a breath. What the hell is that? The thing moved, not toward the surface, sideways, dragging Ethan with it. Ethan yelped as his body lurched, water sloshing quietly around his shoulders. Hey! Hey! I grabbed his wrist, fingers slipping on wet skin. The water around his thigh bulged upward like something pressed against it from below. Mark dropped the lantern. It rolled, throwing yellow arcs across the dock. Pull him, someone yelled behind me. I braced my foot against the planks and yanked. Ethan moved an inch. The lake resisted, not violently, patiently, like we were tugging against thick rubber. Don't fight it, Ethan gasped. What? It's pulling when I pull. The beam drifted again, lower, caught more shapes, not 1, 3, 5, standing in the silt like reeds, except reeds don't have knees, reeds don't have shoulders, reeds don't arrange themselves in a loose semicircle around a person. Mark whispered, there's a lot of them. The water near the dock rippled for the first time, a slow ring, another. Something shifted closer. Ethan whimpered. It's climbing. I didn't think. I grabbed the rope tied to the dock post, the old one used for canoes, and flung the loose end toward him. Grab it. He missed. The water tugged him sideways again, this time harder. His free arm slapped the surface, panic breaking through. I can't see it, he said. I can't see its face. My stomach twisted. Does it have one? A pause. No. The rope brushed his shoulder. He caught it. I pulled hard. The water bulged again. Something beneath him shifted position. The flashlight beam jittered. Mark dropped it. Darkness swallowed the lake. We heard movement then, not splashing, pressure, displacement, like something enormous rolling over under a sheet. Ethan screamed, not loud, choked, like his breath had been punched out of him. The rope went tight. I pulled until my shoulders burned. Someone grabbed me around the waist to help. Lantern light flickered back onto the water, and for half a second I saw it. Not clearly, just a pale mass rising under Ethan, stretching his legs apart as it stood up. Too many joints, too long, and another shape stepping closer behind it. Ethan sobbed. "It's not letting me go." The rope jerked. The lake finally splashed, hard, and from beneath the water came a sound I will never forget. A slow, hollow knock, like someone tapping on the inside of a boat hull. Story 19. My son wouldn't stop digging. We were only supposed to stay one night. That was the plan. Drive out to the old desert campground, roast hot dogs over a fire pit, sleep in the truck or tents, leave early before the heat got bad. My son Leo had begged to come for weeks, kept talking about stars, scorpions, fossils, buried treasure. Every documentary he'd ever half-watched had convinced him the ground out here was full of secrets. By dusk, I was already regretting it. The land stretched flat in every direction, dusty and orange, broken only by low shrubs and black rock formations that looked like melted towers. The air smelled metallic, like overheated pennies. Our campsite sat far from the road, a lonely rectangle of dirt marked by a rusted fire ring and a picnic table scarred with initials. Leo dropped his backpack and immediately grabbed his plastic shovel. "I'm digging," he announced. "Digging what?" "Stuff." He'd started like that 2 hours ago. He knelt near the edge of camp and scraped at the sand with single-minded focus while I pitched the tent and unloaded water jugs. Every few minutes I told him to stop, to help, to at least drink something. He nodded, kept digging. The hole wasn't impressive at first, a shallow divot, then a bowl. But the desert sand was loose, cooperative, and Leo worked with the intensity of someone who'd forgotten time existed. When the sun dipped lower, shadows stretched long across the ground, turning every rock into a crouched animal. "Leo," I said, louder now. "That's enough." He didn't answer. I walked over. He was sweating through his shirt, curls plastered to his forehead, shovel moving in fast, efficient scoops. "Buddy." Still nothing. I touched his shoulder. He flinched like I'd startled him awake. "What? Why are you digging right here?" He frowned at the hole. "Because it's soft." I crouched and pressed my hand into the sand beside it. It wasn't soft. It was packed hard as clay. I pulled my fingers back slowly. Leo had carved through it anyway. "How deep is that?" I asked. He shrugged. "Deep?" I peered in. The hole was chest deep on him now, the bottom hidden in shadow. "Okay, that's enough for tonight." He shook his head. "I'm close." "Close to what?" He hesitated. "I don't know." That answer made my stomach tighten. The wind picked up, whispering across the flat ground, carrying grit that clicked against the truck. I stood. "We're done. Fill it back in." Leo didn't move. He looked down again. Then he whispered, "Dad?" "Yes." "There's wood down here." I froze. "There shouldn't be." He scraped once more. The sound changed, not soft sand. Thunk. Hollow. My pulse jumped. "Stop!" He didn't. Another scream. Thunk. Thunk. He grinned, excited. "See?" I grabbed the shovel. Leo resisted, harder than a 9-year-old should. Leo? He let go. I leaned over the hole, brushed sand aside with my hand. Something pale curved beneath the dirt. Not rock, not root. Smooth, too smooth. I wiped more. A rib. I sucked in a breath. No, not a rib. Too wide, too thick. And there was another one beside it, parallel, forming an arc. I backed up slowly. Get away from the hole. Leo tilted his head. It's not bones. My mouth was dry. What is it? He stared into the darkness. It's a lid. The wind stopped. Dead. No rustle, no grit, no distant road noise. I stepped closer despite myself, crouching at the edge again. Leo, move. He didn't. He reached down into the hole with his bare hand. Don't. His fingers touched something. He jerked back, eyes wide. It's warm. I stared at him. In the ground? He nodded slowly. And what? He swallowed. It knocked back. Story 20. My wife wouldn't blink. We weren't arguing. That was the part that scared me later. We were just standing in the kitchen, late at night. The house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the clock above the sink. The kind of hour where voices drop automatically, where everything feels padded. My wife stood at the counter with her hands resting flat on the laminate, staring at the microwave display. It read 12 o'clock. It had read 12 o'clock for at least 10 minutes. Honey, I said, no answer. She didn't move. I watched her longer than was comfortable. Her shoulders didn't rise, her chest didn't fall. I waited for a blink. Nothing. You okay? Still nothing. I stepped closer. Hey! I reached out and touched her arm. Warm, normal. She didn't react. My stomach tightened. I leaned around so I could see her face. Her eyes were open, wide, focused on the glowing green numbers, not glassy, not unfocused, just unfixed. You're freaking me out. I waved my hand in front of her face. Nothing. I snapped my fingers near her ear. No flinch. I said her name louder. Her lips moved. No sound. I leaned closer. Say that again. Her mouth shaped the word. Time. The microwave beeped. Once. The display flicked to 11:59, then 12 again. She finally blinked. Slow, wet, and turned to me. Did you hear it? My pulse spiked. I hear what? She frowned. The other clock. We only have one. She shook her head. There's another one, behind the wall. I swallowed. There isn't. She looked past me, toward the hallway. There is now. The ticking changed, from soft plastic clicks to something slower, heavier, like a grandfather clock buried in the walls, keeping time for something bigger than our house. I whispered, "When did you stop blinking?" She tilted her head. I didn't. Then her eyes slid back to the microwave and stopped moving again. Story 21. My friend wouldn't leave the tent. We were 4 hours into the hike when the trail vanished. Not dramatically. No cliff. No fallen tree. It just thinned. The dirt path faded into pine needles and roots until the blaze marks on the trunks disappeared and the forest became a wall of vertical brown lines. Jake stopped first. We took a wrong turn. I checked my phone. No bars. Of course. Maya squinted at the canopy. It was right here. Behind us, the trees looked the same. Ahead of us, they looked the same. The kind of sameness that makes your brain itch. We argued quietly for a minute, left or right, uphill or down, before deciding to backtrack. We walked. 10 minutes, 20. The ground never changed. I swear we passed that rock already, Sam muttered. We hadn't. Then we did. A gray slab with a white vein down the middle. Exactly the same. Same loss, same crack. Jake kicked it. Okay, nope, don't like that. Dust came fast under the trees. Too fast. We found a clearing that hadn't been there before. A flat circle of dirt ringed with stones blackened by old fires. No trail, no marker, just space. Maya sighed. We camp. First light. We try again. No one argued. The forest went quiet while we set up. Not peaceful, expectant. Jake crawled into his tent before we finished unloading packs. Already? Sam asked. Tired. We ate energy bars and drank warm water while the sky darkened through the canopy. Jake didn't come back out. Jake, I called. Yeah. From inside the tent. You good? Yep. His voice sounded thick, like he was lying down. Maya frowned. He didn't eat. I walked over and tapped the tent wall. Dude! He didn't answer. I waited, tapped again. The fabric twitched. Jake? I'm comfy. That made my skin crawl. Jake hated sleeping bags. Always complained about zippers, cold spots, weird textures. Come sit by the fire, Sam said. Inside the tent, something shifted, slow, like Jake rolling over. I can't. Why not? A pause. It's heavy. My pulse jumped. Heavy how? On me. I crouched and unzipped the flap an inch. Dark inside. Too dark. The lantern nearby didn't reach in. Move, I said. I can't. My throat went dry. What's on you? Another pause. The ground. I stared at the forest floor around the tent. Normal dirt, needles, rocks. I'm not on the ground, he added. The sleeping bag bulged, not like a body shifted, like something underneath it had pushed up. The fire crackled. No one spoke. Maya whispered, "Unzip it." I reached for the zipper again. From inside the tent, Jake's voice changed, not louder, closer. Don't. Story 22. My daughter kept standing in the hallway. She didn't make any noise. That was what woke me. Not crying, not footsteps, not the creak of floorboards, just a sense that someone was there. I opened my eyes to darkness and the faint blue glow of the digital clock on my nightstand. 2:14 a.m. The house was quiet in the way it gets when even the pipes have decided to sleep. My wife breathed softly beside me. I rolled onto my side. The bedroom door was open. We never slept with it open. "Sweetheart," I whispered. No answer. The hallway beyond was dim. Nightlight casting a weak amber pool on the carpet. My daughter stood just outside it, barefoot, facing away from me, completely still. I sat up. "Hey!" She didn't turn. "Why are you up?" Silence. I swung my legs over the side of the bed. The floor was cold. "Go back to bed," I said gently. She didn't move. Her shoulders were lifted too high, like she was holding her breath. I walked closer. Halfway across the room, she spoke. "Dad?" "Yes." "Don't come out here." My stomach dropped. "What?" "There's someone in my room." I froze. "Where's Mom?" "She's sleeping. She's right behind me." "No," my daughter whispered. "She's in my bed." I took another step. My daughter's head tilted slightly. "You shouldn't see her yet," I whispered. "See who?" She didn't answer. She was listening to something behind her, and from down the hall, from the direction of her bedroom, I heard my wife's voice, soft, sleepy, calling my daughter's name. My wife shifted in bed behind me, still asleep. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My daughter whispered, barely loud enough to hear, "That's not her." Story 23. My brother kept whistling in the woods. We weren't lost. That was the thing everyone kept saying. like repeating it could make it true. We just missed the turnoff, my brother Luke said for the third time, swinging his flashlight beam through the trees. Trailhead's gotta be close. The woods answered with silence. Not the peaceful kind, the hollow kind. 6 of us stood in a loose cluster on what was supposed to be a maintained hiking trail. Packed dirt, reflective markers nailed to trunks. The occasional rotting log turned into a bench. Except the dirt had softened into leaf litter. The markers were gone, and the path had narrowed into something that looked less like a trail and more like a suggestion. My phone showed no signal. Mara's didn't either. Jake, different Jake than the tent story, kept refreshing his map app like he was shaking a vending machine. Luke, meanwhile, whistled softly, tuneless, over and over. "Can you not?" Mara snapped. Luke glanced at her. "Not what?" "That." He frowned. "I'm not doing anything." "You are absolutely whistling." He opened his mouth, stopped, blinking. "Huh?" We waited. The woods waited too. Then, from somewhere to our right, deeper between the trunks, came the same whistle. Low, breathy, wrong. Luke went pale. "I didn't do that." I slowly turned in the direction of the sound. Flashlights cut through branches and hanging moss. Nothing stood there. Luke whispered, "That was my tune." "What tune?" I said. "The one I always do when I'm bored." Another whistle came, closer. Luke's lips trembled. I didn't even finish it. He tried to laugh. It sounded thin. "That's just an echo." Mara shook her head. "Forests don't echo like that." Luke lifted his flashlight. His hand shook. The whistle came again, right behind us. We spun. Nothing. Jake whispered, "Stop." Luke swallowed. "Stop what?" That sound. I'm not..." The whistle cut him off. From directly above us in the branches, something shifted, leaves rustled, not wind, weight. Luke backed into me. "I don't like this." "You ever whistled up there?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "No." Another whistle. Longer this time, patient, like it wanted him to answer. Luke pressed his lips together. Didn't move, didn't breathe. The whistle repeated, closer, matching his pitch, waiting for harmony. I grabbed his sleeve. "Don't," he whispered. "It knows my lungs." We stood frozen while the sound drifted through the canopy, circling without footsteps, without shape, just breath and tone moving where no person should have been able to stand. Then Luke did the worst possible thing. He whistled back, just once, quiet. The woods fell completely silent. Every insect, every leaf, every distant night noise, gone. Luke lowered his flashlight slowly. "That wasn't what I meant to do." Something answered, not a whistle, a wet inhale, from somewhere too close to see. Story 24. My wife wouldn't wake up in the water. We were only supposed to float. That was the deal. The lake was calm, mirror smooth in the late afternoon. Sun painting the surface in dull silver streaks. The dock was crowded with inflatable tubes, towels thrown over planks, coolers sweating in the heat. Kids shouted from the far end. Someone's radio played low, tinny music. Normal, safe. My wife drifted a few feet away from me on a blue tube, arms trailing lazily in the water, sunglasses tilted low on her nose. "Cold?" I asked. She shook her head without lifting it. "Perfect." The water lapped gently against my shoulders. We bobbed, the kind of floating where time disappears. Then I noticed she hadn't moved in a while. Not drifting, not paddling, just staying. The tiny waves slid under her tube without pushing it. "Hey," I called. No answer. I kicked a little closer. Her hand trailed in the water. fingers paled. I reached out and flicked her foot. Wake up. Nothing. I swam closer, pulse ticking up. Hey! Her chest wasn't rising. I grabbed the edge of the tube and shook it. Her head lolled. Her sunglasses slipped sideways. Her eyes were open, staring down into the lake. Not at the sky, not at me, at the water beneath her. Stop it! I muttered, suddenly angry. You're freaking me out. I slapped the side of the tube lightly. Her body rolled with it, but her eyes stayed fixed. I grabbed her shoulders. Hey! She didn't blink. The lake beneath her darkened. Not shadow, movement, slow and wide. Something passed under her, dimming the sunlight. I froze. Babe! No response. I looked around. No one was watching. Everyone else was laughing, splashing, drifting farther out. I shook her harder. Her lips parted, a breath escaped. Relief hit me, then curdled. It wasn't a normal breath. It was too slow, too deep, like something else was timing it. I whispered, "What are you looking at?" She didn't answer. Her hand slipped fully into the water. I followed her gaze. The water below her was perfectly clear. Clear enough to see straight down. Clear enough to see the lake floor far beneath us, and the dark shape standing, not swimming, standing, too tall, too still, looking up. My wife whispered without moving her mouth. It's warm down here.